let's go through our ranking of Kiss albums from worst to best. A little bit of a refresher, like we do at beginning of every episode. So at number 21, right at the bottom, the very worst, is Gene's solo album. Then at number 20, Hot in the Shade. At number 19, Music from the Elder. At number 18, Carnival of Souls. Number 17, Heart of Hell. Number 16, Rock and Roll Over. Number 15, the self-titled Kiss. Number 14, Love Gun. Number 13, Peter Criss's solo album, which is a underappreciated gem, by the way. And 12, Dress to Kill. 11, Animalize. 10, Revenge. 9, Asylum. At number 8, Dynasty. Number 7, Lick It Up. Number 6, Destroyer. Number 5, Paul Stanley's solo album. Number 4, Ace's solo album. Number 3, Unmasked. Number 2, Creatures of the Night. And at number 1, Unmoved. I can't see it moving. Maybe it'll move this week. Who knows? A great album and a solid 9 out of 10. I'd recommend it to everyone. Crazy Nights. And that's our ranking. But today we're not here to talk about any of those albums. Those albums don't matter today. What does matter is the album, the reunion record, quote unquote reunion records, Psycho Circus. So, a bit of background. Well, hang on. Before we go into the background, we've reached the end of the Unmasked era. Not to give too much away, but the makeup is, it's getting reapplied. So, just quickly, if you don't mind, what are your guys' opinions broadly of the makeup era? Is it better? Is it worse? What do you take of it? What do you make of it? Alex, talk to me.
So just to be clear, we're talking the makeup era is beginning to. When did I take on the makeup? Was it Lick It Up? Was that the end of the makeup era?
You're going from Lick It. You're going from Lick It Up. So not Creatures. Creatures doesn't count.
Yeah.
So not any of the Vinnie Vincent, Eric Carr makeup era. The Fox and whatever Vinnie was, I really cannot remember.
The Ank Warrior.
From Lick It Up right through to Tom Hanks is who he was. Tom Hanks. We've got Tom Hank Warrior. We've got from Lick It Up basically right through into last episode's entry, Carnival of Souls. So what do you guys make of it? What do you guys make of this run of albums?
Jesus,
I mean, Alex, what are you feeling?
How do you even group them all together? I know what you're saying with like the makeup era and non-makeup era, but the sort of barefaced era is just so mixed. I mean, of course, like we've talked about how much we love Crazy.
They refer to it as the Unmasked era.
Oh no, sorry, yes, sorry.
Which is confusing because the album Unmasked
I mean,
yes,
during the makeup era.
It is confusing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think this week we're going to be entering into the barefaced liar era of the band. Not to give too much away, but Alex, what do you think? What do you think of this run of albums?
I mean, it's what I appreciate more about this grouping of albums is that they have been trying different stuff, and it has been more of an interesting listen in that sense. While I feel as though for much of the makeup era, they stuck to what they knew, good or bad. They just sort of they had a formula and they kept on running it. However, we've seen over the past few albums,
do you think?
For very mixed results. They've tried very different things.
Actually, I think that the Unmasked era, I would make the argument that actually I think that the makeup era is more diverse overall than the non-makeup era, because you've got like, they sort of go into disco at certain points during the makeup era. They go into prog at other points into the makeup era. Obviously, Music for the Elder. With the makeup era, I think Danny made a good point. He said their music got more boring but better. As in, it's better done. It's better made. The songwriting is better. It's more ferocious. There's more riffs. It's definitely a lot meatier and there's a lot more chemistry. But it's kind of like, for the most part, it's hair metal, hard rock, and then just for a split second grunge. But that's not even really a release.
Actually,
Yeah,
I should
in the typical sense.
edit my statement a bit because I was just considering this album as well, Psycho Circus, but that's not part of the era, is it? So I will say there's not as much exploration, should we say? But what I mean, different styles was Lick It Up had its hair metal sort of thing. Crazy Nights, as I say, we're a fan. Revenge and Unplugged and Carnival Souls have their own flavor, should we say? And for me, it's been very interesting to see how they've evolved. Is it better than the makeup era? I don't know, man. Well, we've got our rankings up there.
Let's be honest.
Danny, how about you?
I mean, it is. Danny, what do you think, mate?
I do think it's hard to analyze it this way because I just think we're splitting hairs talking about like which era they experimented more or chased new sounds more because they're always chasing trends and they're always falling back on very generic, tried and true, just boring rock riffs. I do think they're a weird band. I was just thinking now that most artists, as they age, bands and artists, as they get older, we sort of see them relax a bit more and stop trying to prove themselves as much. While Kiss, it seems like they've just been relentlessly chasing professionalism.
It's
like they still don't feel like... Yeah, they don't feel like they're respected, I think. And I think it does, because I think they were quite critically panned. And I think they still are, in retrospect, by a lot of people. And they don't, people don't, it's funny to even say it, people don't talk about Kiss like they talk about Led Zeppelin or any of their contemporaries. So all of that is just to say that to talk about them in different eras like this, they've never found a sound that they're comfortable with, and their experimentation has never felt like they're genuinely exploring new ideas. So it's actually quite hard to talk about them. If you're going to ask me about, the makeup era or the unmasked era, I was just going to initially answer in aesthetics, and I guess they're better off with the makeup simply because it is a thing that people recognize.
Right.
It's what everyone knows them for. I can see why they took it off, because I guess it looked like a gimmick. But in a way, I'd have said to them, look, your Kiss, lean into the gimmick. And they did. I think, towards what we're going to see on this album and the tour around it and the reunion and everything, is that leading into the image is a good route for them, at least commercially. And I think, why not? It is a fun thing. It's a fun thing to make up.
A bit of background on this record that we're going to be covering, Psycho Circus. Dissatisfied by the direction of Carnival of Souls, and coming off the success of the MTV Unplugged reunion with Ace and Peter, Paul decided to push for a reunion with the 4 original members, Ace, Peter, Paul, and Gene, back in makeup. According to Paul, Gene was a very, very hard sell, which I found quite surprising. Gene doesn't mention that he was a hard sell in his autobiography, by the way, only Paul. So Gene kind of, doesn't claim. It claims to have been very, very much on board with the reunion and saw it as a wise career move. Paul said it seemed like a no-brainer, but still, Gene was a hard sell. Paul would crunch numbers on the phone for him, but Gene was still not convinced. Paul soldiered on, but Gene would not cave. Would not cave at all. Gene eventually wavered and agreed to talk to a few talent agencies about the possibility of doing a reunion tour. Paul claims that when they attended these meetings, the mood had changed from the reception they would have had in the non-makeup era. They were dealing with the bigwigs. Elaborately catered buffets were laid out in front of them. And to quote Paul, hot food? Maybe we were on to something. So, with that, Gene finally gave in. The reunion was on. Now, the reunion tour, there's a documentary that's been made about the reunion tour. called Second Coming. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. I believe I used to have a copy of it on DVD.
You showed it
is
to me at your house many years ago.
There you go. So I showed it to you, so I used to have on DVD at my house many, many, many years ago. I'm assuming that you don't remember anything about it, right? Or very little.
No, we laughed at it and talked over it a lot. Oh, and I remember the voiceover guy is so over the top. That's all I remember.
Yeah, he was also in the VH1 behind the makeup and the Alive. They seem to like that guy quite a bit. They seem quite keen on him. Yeah. So in that documentary, the main sort of takeaway from it is basically we got together. It was great. It was so good to come back. The tour was a huge success. We all love each other. And what's next? At the end, it's just like, what's next? What do we do now? And it's just like, we're going to take over the world, man. We're going to take over the world. And it's very, very positive. Very, very sort of uplifting, particularly if you're a Kiss fan. You'd be absolutely buzzing. That isn't what happened. Quite far from it. And I think if they had made it, if any of the testimonials from any of the members, maybe not so much Ace and Peter, if any of those testimonies are to go by, it would have been, I think, one of the best music documentaries that probably ever would have been made. It's just a bunch of like, well, I'll let the testimonials from the members speak for themselves. And the way we're going to do it this week is going to be a little bit different because look, there's a lot to unpack. There is a lot to unpack. There's a huge chunk out of their lives that was happening before this album came out. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. All of them have different takes on what happened. Gene, Peter, Paul, and Ace on the tour leading up to this album and the production of this album and the album being released. So I thought it'd be fun to do it in a different way. I'm going to ask you guys to pick a member, and then I'm going to run you through what basically they said about it, their testimonials. You get 2 each, right? So let's say, Alex, you pick Ace and Peter. I do Ace and Peter. Danny, you pick Peter. You pick Gene and Paul. I do Gene and Paul, basically. And much like picking a character out of a video game. Don't know why I'm bringing that up. Who knows? Anyway, we'll start with Alex, because your name comes first in the alphabet. It's the best, fairest way of doing it, obviously. Alex, who would you like? Who would you like to hear from first? Which character do you select?
I'm going to go what I hope to be the most honest one first, and then we can see where it goes from there. I'm going to say Peter.
Peter. Okay.
I disagree that
By the
he's
way,
the most honest member.
What? Really?
What makes you say that?
He's a close second, I think. I think Ace is the most honest member. I don't think
Ace will put it
lie as much.
I don't think Ace will put it in a way that like tells the story fully. I think he'll sort of be like, and then I went in and I said, "Fuck Gene," and then I walked out of there, and then 5 years later, a dog came to my door and did it. Like he won't tell the story very
My impression,
nicely.
yeah. I saw some interviews with him recently, and I was thinking I think he's the most honest member, but that's not to say I think he's the most reliable member. I think he does not remember a lot of it.
I think
but I
so
don't
too.
believe he's lying as much.
But anyway, I'm gonna go my logic.
No,
We
there's
start with
been.
Peter.
Okay, let's start with Peter.
Okay, we start with
Peter.
It's worth mentioning as well that these vary in length quite significantly. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So Peter said the reunion was wonderful. He said it was wonderful, but he said the biggest issue was the controlling issue. He said Paul and Gene were control freaks on the tour the entire time. Peter said that if he had a day off, he would chill in his room, order some room service, and, just watch a film. Just chill like that. And he was happy to be back. He wanted to do things right. However, he says the wheels started to come off when they started to record this album, Psycho Circus. Originally, Peter was excited, and he also said he knew the fans were excited in the same way. He was excited for them all to come back together, and he was really excited to deliver this project to the fans, a reunion record. Peter said everything was basically up to the producer of this album, which is a guy called Bruce Fairbairn, who has worked with Loverboy, Bon Jovi, a bunch of bands. Peter said initially he wrote some songs from the album, but was told none of them were good enough. None of them. Instead, they told him that you're going to sing this ballad that Paul wrote instead, which ends up on the album, which we'll talk about later. They paid Peter for the record and said he played on it, but told him directly to not tell people that he played on it.
Oh, wow.
Peter says he could not lie like that. In his own words, he was like, I got to get out of bed in the morning. I got to look myself in the mirror. So he felt he could not lie like that, and I don't really blame him, to be honest. Peter said that the only moment on this album that all four members are united and doing what they do was on the song Into the Void, which Ace wrote and sang on. Out of curiosity, before we move on to that, do you feel that from this record? Do you feel like, oh, that's them? That feels like them when you hear the song Into the Void. Not
That's
to
a
give
good
too
question.
much
I already knew it going
Danny.
in, sadly. I should have got it blind.
Yeah, what do you think? It's hard, innit, when you know already.
Yeah, because having known it, yes. Yes.
You can hear it, the drumming particularly. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, you could definitely hear there was more of like a throwback style, and yeah, there was a difference in production, but I couldn't pinpoint that was the only track that they did that on, no.
Peter said that his songs being rejected hurt, and he took it quite badly. And he said, why couldn't we have worked on these songs the way that we had done with Bob Ezrin? Which is fair, I think, because essentially Beth just came out of him like a melody that he used to just sing, and they worked around it, and they ended up making like one of their biggest hits. So I think that's fair enough. In terms of control, the issues of control and control freaks, Peter said that Gene and Paul were constantly micromanaging him and everything they did. Peter says that he thinks that the album was one of the worst things that they ever did, and the reasons why he purposely says they is because he says he had nothing to do with it. He said particularly touring was really bad because it felt like he had become a side man. He said that he was just learning other people's stuff and he hated it. He said during the reunion tour, he was Peter Criss, and then he became, no, he's just this other guy. He's just a side guy. And those are his feelings on the record. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys take from that? I think it's quite sad. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah. I was just thinking now as you were telling me this, I didn't know this much detail about it. I knew some of it. For people, especially the Gene and Paul, who like to go on about how good they are as business people, it's just bad business, I think. I think it's poor business. They would say, oh, no, you don't know these people. It's impossible to work with them. They're off the walls. I really have my doubts about that. We'll talk about it more as we talk through this album, about how this album has really brought out the unreliable narrator instincts in me when it comes to Paul especially, but also Gene.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Like, we'll go into it later, but I mean, it's shameless. Like, it's absolutely shameless.
Yeah, it's not adding
Alex,
up
what do you think?
The way they tell it. Sorry, just one extra thing. To say why I think it's bad business. The fact this is such a this whole reunion tour, this album is fan service. You're giving this nostalgia kick to your core fan base, the cult follower people, or even just people with some 70s nostalgia. They want songs written by Peter. They're not going to be that bothered about the quality. And like he said, get a producer
totally agree.
Get in
Totally
songwriters,
agree.
help him. Do everything the
help
fuck
him
you
out.
did with Beth. Even if he has a broken half bar of a melody, you can work that into a song. And you could give him, all they want to see is his credit, and they want to not be fucking lied to, because when it comes out, I don't know how many years later, that it's all a fucking lie, this isn't a proper reunion album because they're barely on it, that doesn't look good. That's not respecting your fan base, and it's not coming across as a band who cares about their fan base. So I really think it's bad business. It makes your fans distrust you and dislike you. Alex.
Absolutely, man.
I
I didn't
agree.
consider what he said about the tour in terms of him having to play the songs that he wasn't a part of. Like they had some good songs, so of course they need to play them. But if he was treated poorly, that's a real shame because, like Danny is saying, that this is meant to be a joyous moment for the fans and for the band, and they do some weird stuff in this time with trying to market it as that, much like the Unplugged album. It's just like, oh, this is for the fans, and we're servants for what the fans want, which as I say they play on this album. So a real shame, a real shame.
Yeah, it is. No, I agree with what Danny said about in terms of it being business sense. It's like you know, people are gonna buy this regardless. You know, it's a Kiss reunion album, and I think it showed because it did quite well commercially that people are gonna buy this whether they play on it or they don't play on it. So the fact that you couldn't just like suck it up and get them to play on it, regardless of the quality, it doesn't really matter what the quality is. People are still gonna buy it. I mean, that's all they care about. People are still gonna buy it. So yeah, I agree. It's totally bad business sense. Anyway, Danny, who do you pick now? Please, you choose a character. You've got Gene, Ace.
That's it for Peter.
And
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Gene, Ace. He's very in length. I did say he's very in length.
Okay.
It's not even the shortest one. Anyway, Gene, Paul, and Ace. Who do you pick?
Let's go. I want to say Paul, but I feel like maybe we should save him. No, let's go with Paul because his is gonna be the one that
longest,
most people hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for you both to have like at least one, the two with a mouth, like to just divide them up between you.
There you go.
Yeah, that makes
So I'll go
most
Paul.
sense. All right, so we're going with Paul, right? Sorry, my notes are fucked, absolutely fucked. There's that much fucking information. I swear, my master's dissertation, I don't think was as long as these fucking notes. No, that's Gene. That's still Gene.
I'll pick Ace if that's easy.
Fucking hell.
No, we got it. That's it, Paul.
I should have fucking bookmarked all these. Oh wait, here we go. Yeah. All right, Paul. Paul said that overall he wanted closure out of the reunion. Sadly, that didn't happen. Before anything, Paul said that they needed a manager. So, they hired Doc McGee, who came on board. Now, have you seen an interview with Doc McGee? I was going to say, have you met him? You definitely haven't met him. Have you seen an interview with him? Have you seen a picture of him?
He was in the documentary. It's coming back to me. He does a sort of
He's the
group huddle with them.
Yeah, he is. And he's like, we're going to kick some fucking ass. He is the closest thing, I think, in name and appearance that a Simpsons character can be to actually being a real person. If you look at him, just short, fat, round American businessman called Doc McGee. As I'm going through this, and he talks like that as well. He talks like this. As I'm reading through this, please look at a picture of him. He's really quite...
I'm looking at him right now.
He's quite a specimen. Do you get what I mean? Yeah, I get what I mean.
I get what you mean.
Anyway, Doc McGee's first suggestion was to do the Seven Wonders of the World tour. It would be kicked off by playing in front of the Sphinx. Paul liked him. Paul liked him because Doc fought big. But Paul was not convinced that Doc could keep everyone engaged, including Gene. However, Doc was convinced he could manage it. Paul says that when negotiating with Ace insisted on getting more money than Peter.
For all the times Ace threw Peter under the bus, he should have had arms like a professional bodybuilder.
Was what he said. Paul said there were a list of conditions for Ace and Peter to follow. He claims it was for everyone, but I think it was mainly... the impression I get was it was mainly for those two. He said above everything else, it was most important for everyone to rehearse together to see, how everyone felt playing with one another, see if there was any chemistry, Part of it was part of this sort of, playing together, and part of these rules that they were putting in place was that everyone was hired a personal trainer. Not just for Peter and Ace, but also for Gene and Paul.
Paul said, "The last thing I would want is for people to be disappointed by a bunch of fat guys in tights."
So the training that everyone was required to go through was mostly just cardio and basic strength. However, according to Paul, the guy working with Peter was aghast.
Not only at how weak Peter was, but at how low his endurance was, and how little he was willing to work.
That's what Paul said. Apparently, the trainer said working with Peter was like working with an old man. Paul also said that Peter had a tendency to explode at the trainer about complete nonsense because basically Peter didn't like working out. Paul says that Ace was just lazy, but did put in the time and did put in the effort. Rehearsal went on alongside the workout schedule. They all convened in a small studio. According to Paul, Ace didn't want to rehearse because apparently he knew the songs like the back of his hand.
It became obvious that Ace did not know the back of his hand very well.
Paul said there was no point rehearsing as a band because Ace and Peter had forgotten all their parts. Instead, Paul asked Tommy Thayer, who was busy sucking Gene's dick at the time, to coach Ace and Peter. Yes, he was. That's exactly what he says. He had Gene's dick in his mouth. Oh, okay, Paul. 1 moment. Anyway, according to Paul, after the first day of rehearsing, according to Paul, after the first day of rehearsing with Peter, Tommy called Paul. He said, "Paul, I don't know how to say this."
"Uh-oh,"
said Paul. "I want to see this happen more than anything," said Tommy Thayer. "But I have to be honest with you. I don't know how you're going to do this. Playing with Peter is like playing with someone who picked up his drumsticks for the first time today. It's like he's never played before. He remembers nothing and cannot play." Paul told Tommy to keep trying with Peter, and Tommy would record tapes of these sessions. According to Paul, whenever Tommy would make a suggestion to Peter, like, "Oh, maybe that part wasn't right," Peter would explode at Tommy. "Don't tell me how to fucking play," that's apparently what he would say. Eventually, Paul said that Peter did manage to get up to speed. In Paul's words, he said
he could roll over and play Strutter.
Ace apparently got up to speed much faster than Peter. What do you make of that? That's quite damning. It's quite upsetting, I imagine, as a Kiss fan to hear. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, why do you have to talk about Peter in that way? In such a demeaning way, isn't it?
It's a bit much.
Yeah. Like there's a nice way to tell that same story.
Really been. Yeah. Also, Peter, he is older.
Yeah.
He hasn't been touring. He hasn't been touring. He hasn't really been doing as much. He's stepping in. He's stepping up. He wants to do this. He's gonna find it harder. And yeah, by comparison to like Paul or Tommy Thayer, because Tommy Thayer's, essentially much more of a practicing professional musician at this point. Of course, he's gonna be wank. I'm pretty sure if I stepped in, I would be shitty as well. It just doesn't seem fair to me at all. Danny, what do you think?
Alex hit the nail on the head. Just like, there's a nice way to tell that story, or a nicer way. You're able to come across sympathetic, Paul. You're able to come across as a nice person if you try. And he's putting in no effort to do so.
Like we were saying earlier, Paul
across...
wants this to happen. It's a good business idea. Like, Paul should it's as if like he's doing Peter a favor here in all this. But really, I think Paul needs Peter at this moment.
Yeah,
he does. Okay, so let
you say, Alexei.
No, I was going to say, I mean, let's rephrase this the way that Danny said. You could rephrase it as like, Peter was a bit behind, but he worked as hard as he could to go up to speed for the band and to make this happen. Like, he did the time, he did the work, he was willing to learn his parts again. And for that, that's great. Practicing like loving kindness towards people that you have like complicated relationships with does a lot for your mental health. This does
right.
nothing.
The end of the story is
really.
the same. The end of the story is that he got up to speed. So you can tell it quite damningly, and still with kindness. You can say, I'm going to be honest, Peter really did struggle with this. He'd been out of the game for a long time.
100%, yeah.
And
got frustrated. And got frustrated.
And got frustrated, yeah. Yeah, you can say that. But from the way of him to tell this story, and the way he talks about, like, the workout stuff. Imagine, like, what he's like when he goes home after the gym. It's like, oh, you won't believe it. I just saw this little weakling today. It made me sick. Like, no one comes across well talking like that.
Isn't he like 50 years old, mate? He's 50 years old. He, probably hasn't worked out a day in his life. And, also, like, again, with Paul and Gene, they've been on the road. They've been on the road. They've been working out. They're used to this. He is not. I mean, it's fair to say that, like, you could look at it as, like, okay, Peter was, there's a lot of pressure here. There's a reunion tour. There's loads of people that are really gassed for it. Peter worked really hard. He probably got frustrated because there was a lot of pressure on him being so far behind for him to, get up to speed. Like Danny said, there's a nice way to tell it, and this isn't it. This benefits no one. It doesn't benefit your fans at all.
Yeah. And just to reiterate what Alex was saying, like you really can lean into the negative. He could really say, I struggled with Peter's attitude. I thought that he was too negative. I thought he wasn't, all this stuff. You could really let the fans know in a respectful way. He must know. Paul must fucking know that most people who are a fan of him are also fans of Peter. So what does he gain? He's just this jealous man is trying to rewrite history in his own favor. It only comes across that way because even if everything he said there in that story is true, which, because of his track record, God knows, but even if it's all true, the way he tells it is so mean. He's such a bully.
It is. It gets worse.
It
gets worse. Isn't even the fucking worst part of it. In general, not to give you guys too much of a head up, Paul goes after Peter a lot more than Gene does. Gene goes after Ace. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
The focus of a lot of Gene's anger is towards Ace. And a lot of... it's mostly because I think Gene thinks that Ace had a lot of potential but squandered it, whereas I think that Paul just thinks Peter's an idiot. Anyway. Their first show was Tiger Stadium. Paul was very, very excited. Ace was late for every single rehearsal for this gig. Paul said they decided, leading up to it and leading in the tour in general, to stay in the best hotels possible. He said Peter and Ace were completely lacking in world experience and were not used to staying in the upper echelon hotels. One day, Paul took Peter to a Starbucks, and Peter was apparently blown away by how good a biscotti was. This brewed resentment, apparently, in Peter. Paul said Peter would constantly say that he was disrespected by hotel staff. However, Paul does admit that at the beginning, and this is in line with what Peter's saying, that at the beginning, Peter was uncharacteristically open and grateful. Paul said that being with Peter at the beginning was fantastic. However, Paul said that during the tour, Peter's playing was a shadow of its former self. He would hit the drums very, very lightly. So what they had to do is they had to put a trigger on the drums, so it would then hit a sound that would make it sound like really, really big. No matter how hard you hit them, you could tap them and it would have this huge drum sound because you could change the sensitivity on it. This is because apparently Peter was complaining a lot that his arm hurt and he was getting carpal tunnel syndrome. Paul says that because of the trigger's sensitivity, Peter could play a drum solo
by sneezing.
Paul said that the tour had made Peter and Ace millionaires again, and as soon as they had money in the bank, they changed. Peter's hotel requests became more and more strange. If Peter put a sign on his door with one symbol, the staff could go in and clean, but they could not touch the windows. Another sign meant that they could air the room out, but they couldn't touch the towels. He needed to be a certain distance from the elevator. He couldn't be too high up. He made them cover up the windows with tin foil. So a lot of strange demands, according to Paul. One afternoon, Peter was throwing stuff out of his hotel room. He was screaming and obviously very upset.
What's wrong?
Paul asked. They didn't clean my room, said Peter.
But Peter,
You put the sign up on your door that says they can't come in, said Doc McGee. So it's all very confusing. A little very confusing. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Ace started using again. He started using drugs again. Doc had to put it in place to ban doctors from giving him Doc McGee had to ban doctors from giving Ace prescriptive painkillers. According to Paul, Ace had also started bringing a projector with him that would run an image of Ace's face morphing into Elvis's. He would play this in his hotel room on the wall, sort of constantly on a loop. Doc McGee started to have enough with Peter and Ace and said, I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not here to preserve the past. I'm here to make this grow and move forward. If you're not here, then get the fuck out. So, it's not going. It was not going great. Years before, Tommy Thayer had confided in Paul that he had always thought that Paul and Gene were the sort of uptight business types, and that Peter and Ace were the rock and roll types. Paul had laughed at that just because of how wrong it was. Tommy had taken over as road manager at one leg of the tour, and after dealing with the two of them, after dealing with Ace and Peter, he confided in Paul and said he was totally wrong about them being the rock and roll types, and he even said that Ace is a fucking loser to Paul. By the end of the tour, Ace and Peter demanded to be made full members. Paul told them that the reason the tour was a big success was because
you both had no say in anything.
Oh, fucking hell. I mean, Ace and Peter were not included in decision-making as Paul felt they had not earned it. He even said that
not in a million years would I let them be equal.
Paul said
that when they had left Kiss, Ace and Peter had advantages, money, industry contacts, notoriety, but they could barely get arrested before the reunion tour. And they were broke. They were thankful at the beginning of the reunion tour because they had found a way out of their miserable, marginalized little lives that they were living.
He did not say that.
Fucking hell. He said that. I have it. It's quoted. He says it in his autobiography. Yeah, he doesn't say it quite how I said it. He said that. I mean, fucking hell.
It's so Paul as peak Paul.
What? That's the pinnacle, isn't it? That's just.
Yeah.
What do you have anything to say about that other than? I mean,
if any of this is true, then Peter and Ace are definitely not in a good great mental shape at this point. So once again, it's sort of this. It just leads me to question: well, why are we talking about them in this way, Paul? Sort of thing. Like, I don't know when this book was written, but surely there's enough distance to then look at that situation and go, these are my old friends who are not in a great position. We know their habits when it comes to alcohol and drugs. So again, you have a choice into how you. I'm not saying you hide the truth or you make it seem as though everything was rosy, but there's a way you can go about this. And to describe their
Well, yeah,
freaking Paul must have seen so many stars from the 70s on onwards who, despite how much money or fame they had, freaking squandered it for various reasons. Paul could have easily been one of those. So
absolutely.
yeah, it pisses me off, honestly, but yeah.
I mean, couldn't you just say, like, you know, okay. I mean, let's look at it. Like, you got these two guys, and like they've had a series of substance abuse. They've been married, like, I don't know how many times. You know, basically gone into obscurity, and then you're giving them all this money to come back, and then sort of, you know, at their age as well, it kind of makes sense for them to act a bit odd. There's not much sympathy here. Like, it's such a drastic change, you know, of a lifestyle. I mean, don't get me wrong, if that behavior's right, it's not necessarily excusable, but like, it's explainable. And I don't think there's explaining it and there's being sympathetic without excusing it. You certainly don't have to say that their lives, when you weren't involved and giving them a hand, were miserable and marginalized. That just isn't fair. I bet, you know, essentially these are people that you built a career with and you built a life with. You will die one day, and this is the last thing that you've ever kind of gone on record to say about them, really, publicly. And that's not really fair. Danny, you got any thoughts, or can I move on?
You guys have covered it. I just want to say, yeah, to be clear, you've both touched on it. I'm sure they're not easy people to work with, Peter or Ace.
No.
I'm sure that
not at all.
this is not 100% complete lies, and they're actually these saints who are just, you know, there for the ride. I'm sure they were doing weird things.
It's
really how he tells the story, yeah. And how you handle it, you're right, yeah. How he's dealt with it. There's no sense of fucking camaraderie between them at all. They were already a bit like, let alone this fucking autobiography. They're bitching back then, him and, you know, talking about what Tommy Thayer was saying about him and stuff. They're already, it's just not a healthy dynamic within the band.
No, it's not a healthy dynamic. Also,
true.
You know, if you're a big Kiss fan and this was everything you wanted it to be, this would just devastate you. It's like it's gone to the complete opposite. It's gone to brutal honesty, but in kind of like the worst possible way. You know, it's always like, oh, we need to protect our fans. Well, it's like, you know, you've gone from basically lying to them constantly and gaslighting their fans to basically being completely honest, bitchy, and vengeful. It's like the worst. It's like the two worst ends of the scale. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In any case, Ace did have a great response to these claims. Do you know what it was?
I'm trying to think of an Ace-ism, but go on.
Well, this is according to Paul. He said that Ace claimed in response that he was responsible for the whole reunion because if he hadn't have left the band, there wouldn't have been a reunion. He's got you there, Paul.
That's just fucking smart. He's got him.
That's fucking smart. He's a lot smarter than Paul is, isn't
Ace.
he? He's way fucking smarter than Paul is. He's got more business sense. I think.
Paul would fucking hate it if he heard you say that.
I know. I don't give a fuck. He's a better musician. I don't give a shit. Yeah, he's a lot smarter than Paul. A lot more talented. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Karen. Despite all this, they decided to make a reunion record. Paul said he wanted no regrets. Paul wanted to take it all the way. They got Bruce Fairbairn, as we covered. But however, Paul did not rate him. He didn't rate him as a producer. He said that Bruce Fairbairn chose awful demos for the record. He even wanted the title track off the album. Paul said that Bruce Fairbairn's head was so far up Gene's ass, he couldn't hear. Paul also said that the album's production was a disaster all round because Peter and Ace did not show up, and because they did not show up, they were not used. So we got two contrasting views here. We got Peter saying, no, I wanted to do it. I submitted all these songs and was just told, no, you know, it's not good enough. And Paul basically saying that Ace and Peter just didn't show up and they were more than welcome to do it. Alex, choose your fighter. Who do you want now? You've got a choice between Peter. Oh, no, sorry. You've got a choice between Ace and Gene.
For some reason, I got in my head that I want to hear Ace's last. So I'm going to pick Gene next.
Gene, I hope you
Gene.
like talking about business, because that's coming up. I hope you like number crunching.
Oh boy, do I.
Gene and savvy business position. So, right at the start of getting the reunion together,
The 90s
Gene
were a dot-com era.
Once Gene was in to the reunion, Gene called George Suet, who was Ace and Peter's manager. You might remember him from the Unplugged episode, and asked them if they would be interested in this reunion. On this, Gene commented that direct communication with Ace and Peter was difficult as neither of them had people skills and never answered their phone. Peter said that he met with George Suet to discuss what he would be willing to offer them for a reunion. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the deal, which is quite interesting. George Suet apparently wanted a bigger figure, but Gene was having none of it because he made it clear that the deal that they were going to offer Ace and Peter was a deal of employment. Gene had no interest in being partners with them. So from the get-go, they're not equal members. As Gene put it, if Ace wanted to come back on board and be a millionaire once again, they would be happy to have him. Ace and Peter's fee was a guaranteed number. If the tour did not do well, it would not affect Ace and Peter. They would still get paid regardless. What do you think of that arrangement? So essentially, it's like you get a flat fee no matter what happens. You get your fee. But let's say how much the tour grosses. Let's say it does huge figures. You're not going to see any of that. You just get your fee that we are promising you right now. This is a guaranteed number. If it does bad, you still get paid regardless. Because, you know, that I don't think that. I mean, me personally, I don't think that's a good deal. Danny, what do you think?
I don't know, but it doesn't sound good, does it? Again, the image of it to the fans is not good. We want equal members, an equal vote, an equal distribution. That's what you think of when you think of a band. You don't think of one person or two people contracting others as hired musicians. Then it doesn't feel... Oh, yeah, on paper, then it doesn't feel like a reunion, does it? It feels like a... well, anyway, a very Kiss reunion. Because it's all... It's boardrooms and meetings and stuff. That's how it comes across. Alex?
I think it is quite complicated. If they're playing a lot of songs that Ace and Peter weren't a part of, then there's an element of like, well, these are not your songs, and you're just sort of playing them for us. I know that's still quite like a cold way to look at it, but I think it's quite difficult to make it completely equal in a situation like this. And I think it all depends how much money.
Can I just confirm? Can I just confirm they're not paying anything from the Unmasked era?
Oh really? Oh okay, because when Peter, when you were saying Peter earlier was, he was saying like they were giving him songs to play.
No, that was after Psycho Circus. So he was being given the songs off Psycho Circus to play live that he
got it. All right. Okay, that does change things a bit for me. I think overall it depends what that sum of money is. If it's a large number and it's saying, you know, there's an element of risk because you haven't performed a long time, but we guarantee you this, okay, fine. But if it's a very low number for what Paul and Gene are thinking they can make from this, then it's pretty bad. I don't know. I'm not a business guy. It's kind of hard for me to say.
I don't think it's a great deal because
do they get merchandise royalties? Do we know?
No. So they don't get anything as far as.
So even if they buy a star,
like that. So if they
Starman, freaking bust, Ace doesn't get anything.
No, as far as I'm aware. So like, the reason why I don't think it's a great deal is because I mean, obviously the tour's going to do insanely well at this point. There's no doubt about that. So I think, yeah, it depends on what they've actually being offered. But from what I gather, they became very, very disappointed because they didn't earn as much as Paul and Gene did in the end. And I think Paul and Gene knew that it was going to make a killing. It would be more than probably the number that they were going to offer Ace and Peter. Anyway, Gene's reasoning is that him and Paul had made Kiss into a very successful band without Ace and Peter, and that they would only consider having them back if they weren't partners. Eventually, George Stewart agreed to the terms. As a result, all four of them met up at Gene's guest house. Gene said that he told everyone how thrilled he was that they were getting back together, but then almost immediately, Ace attempted to renegotiate the contract. Ace apparently said, I don't care what you give Peter, I want more. Peter was upset, obviously. Gene described this behavior as same old. He said it was the two weaker members of the band playing off each other. I mean, hold on, weaker? Weaker, not musically, mate. Not compared to you. Absolutely not. Definitely not weaker. Are you fucking mad? Are you mad? They didn't write Ladies' Room. They didn't write Living in Sin at the Holiday Inn. They didn't write one song off this album, actually, as well. They didn't write that either. We'll get to that in a bit. Anyway.
No.
They agreed.
Oh, no.
You know which one I mean? Yeah. I'd be curious if it's the same one. I'd be really, really curious to see if it's the same one.
Oh, I'm not sure.
They agreed to Ace's demands. And decided to give Ace more. Basically,
Why?
because they wanted to think of the overall profit. Because they were like, okay, we give Ace more, doesn't matter because this is going to do insanely well.
No, I mean,
So they're like, it's
for
worth
Peter's sake.
yielding. It's worth bending the knee for Ace to give him more money because the bigger picture is the tour's going to do insanely well.
no. What I mean is, was Peter then just like, oh well, Ace won, fair enough. He was okay with Ace just being paid more than him.
He claims he didn't know about it. In fact, there's an interview of Ace where Ace had to break
okay.
the news to Peter. Gene says that Peter was fully aware. So I don't know.
Oh,
It's
impossible to talk
complicated.
about
It's already off to such a bad start. This tour, even from Gene's, it's off to such a bad start. Would it not be like, all right, no, this isn't going to work? It's amazing how much money is a driving force. It's ridiculous. Even Paul said that like he likened it to the Eagles getting back together. I didn't include it in this, but he was just like,
They did not get back together because they were hugging and loving one another.
do you know what I mean? Like it's amazing how much money is a driving factor in this. Anyway, Ace tried a few more times to negotiate. Gene said this was classic Ace. And Kiss probably had legal standing to sue Ace. They didn't, because according to Gene, they were still family. Then, in Gene's autobiography, he starts to rattle off a few legal suits that Kiss have won. And then he very, very proudly claims that Kiss has yet to lose a suit, which is very on brand. Very, very, very on brand. He's like,
To this day, Kiss has yet to lose a single suit.
Gene personally wrote a list of demands, which we've been through. One of them was, of course, strenuous rehearsals, particularly because, in Gene's words, Peter's drumming had deteriorated to an unacceptable level. And he also described Ace's guitar playing as a shadow of its former self. Tommy Thayer, of course, took Gene's dick out of his mouth for 5 minutes and was tasked with teaching Ace his solos, teaching it back to him. So they spent time sat opposite each other with Marshall amps and guitars, teaching Ace his solos back to him. Of course, the workout regimen was put in place, as well as those of rehearsals. One of the other conditions was no drugs, no booze. Ace very quickly broke nearly every single one of these rules. Gene did say that, to his credit, Peter showed up and did all the work. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Different. He's like, no, Peter, to his credit, he showed up and did the work. You turn it to Paul. Paul's like, Ace got to speed way faster than Peter did. He was lazy, but he put in the time. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting.
Yeah.
At one point, they were close to firing Ace from the reunion. until Gene was convinced by George Stewart to have a heart-to-heart with Ace. Ace had some excuses for his behavior. Apparently, he said his dog was sick and that the government was hassling him about taxes. I mean, that's fair, isn't it? That's a bad combination. Your dog's, when your dog's ill,
Down.
and the government are hassling you about taxes. That would get me down. In any case, Ace calmed down and sort of settled down a little bit and sort of came in and did the work. They needed a new manager. So they chose Doc McGee, who we've talked about. He managed Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. As we know, Doc McGee booked Tiger Stadium as their first show. Tickets sold out very, very fast, which is good news. Gene said that at the start of the reunion, Peter had been jubilant. Again, everyone keeps saying this. Peter was great at the beginning. Gene thought that because of Peter's attitude, the tour would go smooth. But Gene said ultimately it wasn't to be. Ace and Peter complained about the workout schedule, and they also complained about things like photo shoots. Gene also said that at one point, Ace came up to him in the car park of their rehearsal studio and stated that he had not received his weekly check, and if he didn't get it, he was leaving the band. I mean, his dog is sick, and he is having the government hassle him about taxes, so I think you should give him a break. For their first press conference, Gene wanted them to book the United Nations to represent Kiss's global reach. Oh, you
That's
mad
so fucking
bastard.
Gene in the worst
You
way.
absolute mad cunt. You fucking yeah. But shockingly, they couldn't get the permits to do that, so it didn't happen. But what they did manage, so that didn't fucking happen, obviously. But they did manage to do a press conference in an aircraft carrier, which was hosted by an American late night talk show host. Do you want to guess who it is? You get one guess each. Alex, go.
Conan O'Brien.
It was Conan O'Brien.
Yes.
Spot on. Was that going to be your guess?
I was thinking low-level
No,
90s
Gonna
talk
say
show.
Letterman.
And that's who...
You get. I'm gonna get as a prize. As a prize, you're gonna get Second Coming on DVD. I'll find it. Wrap it up. And send it to Taiwan. Yeah. Conan O'Brien's not low level. He had
at that
he had
time-
the second highest, second, third highest ratings, mate, next to David Letterman.
Is that true?
Jay Leno.
I thought he was like the all the
Yeah.
big stars would go on the other ones, and he would get like, the second tier.
No. Don't be a fool, Alex. No. No, he did very well. He also actually interviewed Gene Simmons as well. You can see on YouTube. It's very, very bad. He's uninterviewable. Anyway, to rehearse.
Give me the name
Tiger
of any
Stadium-
comic book, and I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, it's one of those. To rehearse for Tiger Stadium, they took over Cobo Hall in Detroit, which is where they recorded Alive. As they were setting up, Gene was informed that Ace had not made it into Detroit. He had missed his flight, so they booked him another, and he missed that too. They booked a third, and he missed that too. This sent Gene into a rage. He was furious. Ace eventually showed up and said he hadn't got round to packing, and packing had been quite difficult for him. I mean, with his dog being so ill and the government hassling him about taxes, no wonder it would take me a while
difficult to pack
If I had
sometimes,
this.
yeah.
It can be very difficult to pack. I mean, I could imagine missing 3 airplanes because I was packing. What do you take? Gene hit the roof. Gene absolutely hit the roof. In Gene's words, he tore Ace a new asshole. Gene told Ace that he was a loser, and this was his last chance to get on his feet. Gene told him he should be ashamed of himself, keeping the whole band and crew waiting. And he said, if you can't do the job, get the fuck out. Ace turned around and said, go fuck yourself, and then left. Paul, who I imagine was in bits at this point. In bits.
No, stop shouting. Leave him alone, Gene. You're hurting him.
Was very upset, as you can imagine, and told Gene to smooth things over. Gene did smooth things over, and rehearsals got moving. During this period, Gene wanted a biography written about the reunion tour. Originally, he asked Stephen King, who said no. He then asked Steven Spielberg, who said no, because they obviously had better things to do. So, instead, they got the editor of Spin magazine to do it instead. Gene had the idea of doing 4 separate covers for Spin magazine with every different member's face on, sort of collector's edition for fans. Gene brought in the covers to show the band at Cobo Hall, but Ace hated it. He didn't like his picture, he said he fucking hated it, and it sucked. He went around the whole crew asking people if he thought his picture looked good. He was very upset. During the first run of the tour, old problems started to come up. Gene said that Ace would constantly ask questions about the number of people showing up at the concerts. Ace apparently was convinced that people were hiding tickets. However, according to Gene, he said that Ace was oblivious to the fact that what he had was a deal where he got paid no matter how many people showed up at the gig.
Right.
The only scenario where he wouldn't get paid was if he did not play. Was if Ace did not play, then he would not get paid. Gene would explain this to him again and again and again, but he would not listen. Ace would also ask Doc McGee how many people showed up at the gig that night. Doc would tell him, and Ace would then produce a schematic of the venue and point to where it said capacity and say something like, "Bullshit. See right there. It says 20,000. You said 15,000. At this point, Gene basically says that Ace would constantly get confused between capacity and attendance and insist that Doc McGee and Gene were lying to him. Gene did say, however, that there were moments of clarity on Peter's part, particularly at the beginning of the tour. Peter, apparently at the start of the tour, would talk openly about wanting to change and would also help keep Ace on the straight and narrow. Peter would say things to Ace like, "Your father? What is your daughter gonna say?" And, "I don't want to go back to playing clubs. Do you? It's time to straighten up." However, this would not last. After Peter had made his money from the first part of the tour, he started to question why he had not made more. At this point, he would team up with Ace and make what Gene would describe as ridiculous demands. Gene said that after the tour, Kiss were called upon to make another album. However, by Kiss, what Gene meant was Paul and I, as Ace and Peter were not signatures to the contract. Now, who did they look upon to help with the record? Bob Ezrin. Bob Ezrin was actually involved at the beginning, before they even went into the studio. He was originally going to produce it, according to Gene. Apparently, this was not to last, because as they started working with Bob Ezrin, it became obvious that Bob was too busy with his internet company to work with us. I mean, that sounds like an excuse to me. That sounds like a really fucking bad excuse. Like, "Oh, I'm busy with my the internet company that I'm working on." He goes, "Oh yes, that does sound quite time consuming, Bob. I'm sorry. You carry on with that."
Had been learning HTML, which I have a lot of respect.
He was working on the game Roller Coaster Tycoon. I was far too busy to work on it.
If any of you guys have it in you to Google Bob Ezrin's internet company, please feel free, because I did not. So instead, they got Bruce Fairbairn, as we know, Bon Jovi, Loverboy. Gene said that from the beginning right to the end, Bruce Fairbairn was tortured by Ace and Peter, who tried yet again to change the contract and didn't show up for most of the record. They had to use Tommy Thayer, Bruce Kulick, and Kevin Valentine in their place. Bruce, according to Gene, got them through the whole process. And Gene said as a result, they made a solid Kiss record. One that debuted at #1 around the world. I mean, it debuted at #1 in Australia and Sweden, so let's not over-egg the pudding, Gene. Let's get this real. Only debuted at #1 in those two countries. Got to #3 on Billboard, so you know. So that's Gene. That's Gene. Gene seems to think that this record is a solid record. He seems to like it. Paul does not, and Peter absolutely does not for understandable reasons. Have you got anything you wanna mention about Gene's testimonial, or can we move on to Ace?
I want to make one point, and it's a worrying point.
Oh,
it's
please,
because I felt it for a while. I feel like we've said things that lead into this. He comes across better than Paul in that. Not to say he comes across well.
He does.
But there's just a bit more of what we were talking about, of that sort of showing an amount of tough love and explaining that they were difficult. Again, God knows how much of it's fucking true or how much he's embellishing it. We've known them they've admitted that they've lied before, so who knows? But there just is so much. There's less bitterness in what you just said than Paul's, and there's more just yes, it was difficult. And there's more acknowledging of good things, except for on Ace's.
It's not personal. It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's not personal.
And of course,
don't get me wrong. I missed out some stuff. There's bits where he was like, "Oh, it would be typical of Ace to not know what capacity meant." But he also says like Ace was bright. He goes on. He says Ace was bright. He said he created his own smoke machine for his guitar, and he does seem to have somewhat of respect for him. The main takeaway from Gene's is like, we set out a set of conditions, and this was the contract that we went on, and they didn't follow it through, and that does speak for itself. Ultimately, it's not personal. It doesn't need to be.
Yes.
Sorry, Karen.
Yes, like it doesn't come across as very socially apt, but Paul comes across so bitter and bad that Gene's sort of like he's playing his role, Gene, isn't he? He loves to be I'm just a cold, cynical businessman.
It's business. It's business.
Yeah, and I've got a very dark sense of humor, haha. And at least he's playing that role quite consistently here, as he usually does. It's not likable. I don't like it, but I really think, and I hate saying it. I hate saying that he's coming across better than Paul here, but he really is.
I do. One of the things that I've discovered on this journey, and it's something that you pointed out to me, is that the true narcissist is Paul over Gene, and it's a really hard thing to come to terms with. You know what I mean? Because Gene is such an arsehole. It's, you know, and to its credit, look, if we had this big reunion tour and someone was late to rehearsals and missed 3. And was keeping everyone waiting and missed 3 flights because they were having trouble packing, right? I would be pissed off. I would be really fucking pissed off. You know, and I'm like, that's fair. You're angry. That's fair, but he sorted it out. He figured it out. Alex, got anything to add, or can we move over to Ace?
I was just going to say
Ace
the same that Danny said. Just, though it's not perfect, comes across way better and much more just, here were the facts of what happened. And we got through it, sort of attitude. Let's hear what Ace had to say.
Yeah. So Ace said he had very limited involvement with Psycho Circus and was not invited to the studio. They did not invite him. He said Paul and Gene's accusations that he didn't show up are incorrect. He said that he wasn't on any of the songs because he wasn't asked to be. That is with the reunion, sadly. You know, and that's it. That's it. All he has to say. All I could find. He says he was not asked to be on it, so he didn't play on it. He wanted to, and he didn't. He did say he submitted some more songs than the ones that he got on. He said he submitted about 4 or 5. But that's it.
Yeah, I saw him say that on Loudwire. He basically said that in a Loudwire interview.
Yeah. I basically just paraphrased that interview. That's it. There's not much. There's really not much. Now, we've gone over the reunion tour. This is just a fucking disaster and is very cynically done. And it doesn't really sound like anyone's really having a good time. And I think when I go back to what I was saying at the beginning was had they made an honest documentary, I think it would have been fucking fantastic. I think it would have been absolutely brilliant if they made an honest documentary about the tour. Any of you guys, got anything more to say? It would have been brilliant. It would have been fucking excellent. Anything you guys want to say about the reunion tour?
No, I'm good.
No, we good? Right. With this reunion, sadly, Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer had to go. They were invited to Gene's guest house. He seems to do a lot of business in his guest house, doesn't he? Seems where he kind of, chews the fat. Seems where he gets into the nitty-gritty in his guest house. So they met up at Gene's guest house to break the news. Apparently, they thought they were going to have a meeting to discuss the release of Carnival of Souls. Ultimately, they were blindsided. I know. Ultimately, they were blindsided by what they were told. It's also good to have a reminder that as they were recording Carnival of Souls, Bruce says that Paul and Gene would leave for hours on end to have these phone calls about the reunion behind their back. They were told, they were totally blindsided, and Eric, however, they said was a true gentleman about it. They said Eric said that they call it the music business for a reason. Bruce, according to Paul, was a real mensch. Just a reminder that a mensch is a Yiddish term meaning great guy. And in general, Gene and Paul have both said how gentlemanly Bruce and Eric were about the whole thing. They were also kept on the payroll till they could figure out their next move. But, get this, if they wanted to do a side project, apparently, if they wanted to do an interim project whilst Paul and Gene were doing the reunion tour, they had to get it okayed by Paul and Gene, which I think is incredibly fucked up. Anyway, with that, Bruce is now our next Kiss casualty. Now, before we go into Bruce and his highs and his lows in his career, I feel like I need to explain something. We're not doing Eric Singer because, without giving too much away, let's say he might come back. Who knows? Who knows? But we will be doing Bruce. Bruce is gone. What do you guys think his highs and lows are? What do you think he gave to the band, and what is his lasting impact and legacy? Alex, talk to me.
The guy came across as a true professional, an absolute professional under the circumstances. And he was an excellent guitarist. He seemed to go with whatever was sort of given to him, and I think he damn good. He contributed some really good solos. I wish we got a bit more personality from him in terms of like songs contributed, because we got the one song of Carnival of Souls, and I thought it was just okay, but I think
he's got a lot of co-writing credits.
Yeah. But I kind of wanted to know more about him as a person, and sort of wanted him to steer things a little bit more. Maybe he did. It's hard to tell sometimes with the co-writing credit stuff. But I think he was a pretty excellent guitarist, and seemed like a very, very likable person. It's just a shame that it had to end this way, because I would love to see him continue on, even if it was in a like an unplugged scenario where he was playing alongside them, either in a 5-piece or in a sort of like come in and out situation. But that was probably a money thing, right? Yeah, big fan of Bruce.
Is it fair to say that he got completely shafted, do you think?
Yeah. For how we're not talking about, Vinny or someone like who was only there for a few years. Bruce was there for a long time and contributed a lot to the band. Like how often he was on the song credits. So he was a huge part of the band. Arguably maybe more than Peter and Ace in terms of writing credits and time with the band.
Yeah. Also, you've got to think as well, the reasons behind, really the motivation behind him not being here, for him being sidelined, isn't artistically motivated. It's not because they're like, oh, you know, what kind of great music can we make in the future? It's not out of love for the other members or anything like that. It's purely just because of money, and it's well, all that time and effort I must have put into, like, you know, trying to keeping this band going, and all my contributions and stuff, were they just for nothing? Did that just mean nothing? Danny, what do you make of Bruce?
I think, I think I've made it quite clear as we've gone through these albums that he's my favorite guitarist to come out of Kiss.
Same.
He's really my favorite musician to come out of Kiss. I think he's
probably,
perhaps the only member I would actually be interested in checking out stuff that he's done since, especially projects he's worked on. I think Alex, I like that you brought up professionalism. That is how he comes across. He just showed up in this very dysfunctional band, played his role very well. I actually think it's to his credit that we don't really have much personality associated with him, because this band is like a black hole.
It works in his favor. It works in his favor.
Yeah, like no
definitely.
positivity
Makes
comes
him more-
out the
makes
more
him
we
more
learn about these
likeable.
people. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think his guitar playing is so good, and I wish that the stretch of albums that he was on was a stretch of albums I liked more, I suppose. But there are some good. I mean, it's got Crazy Nights, obviously, but like all the stuff, I don't think I've had anything good to say about any of the stuff in the 90s so far, which is a shame. But no, I think he's absolutely left a very positive mark on music, and he's great. I like Bruce a lot. What do you think, Alexei?
I love Bruce. He's my favourite guitarist of theirs. He's surprisingly soulful and melodic, even when he's being incredibly shreddy. I think a lot of those songs on Crazy Nights blend those two styles really, really, really well. I think he has demonstrated as well that he's a much more diverse guitarist than other Kiss guitarists have been. He can be incredibly shreddy, you know, like on Asylum, but he can also be sort of a lot noisier and a lot darker, like on Carnival of Souls and Revenge. You know, he experiments with sounds a lot on those records, and that's other thing that other Kiss guitarists don't necessarily do. But he can also be really kind of bluesy and straightforward, like on Hot in the Shade or Revenge. Like, you know, at the same time, going into all those styles, he always pulls them off well. He doesn't seem like he's sort of exploring it. He kind of like seems to study it, focus on it, and play with a lot of purpose. You can tell he thinks a lot about his guitar solos, and he seems like a really, 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 you know, nice guy. Like I was saying, like Danny was saying, he having that almost like lack of personality benefits him a lot, particularly in the context of this band. He's not just a proficient kind of session guitar player. He obviously thinks a lot about his solos, and he plays with a lot of purpose and also a lot of soul. For me, I'd say his high points are probably No, No, No and Turn on the Night. His lows, he doesn't really have any. At a push, right, I would say probably the Unplugged, but that is not his fault. That's because the guitar just sounds like shit. His playing doesn't sound like shit. It's just the sound of that guitar just does not sound very good. Would you guys like to know the aftermath of Bruce's career? It is not very long.
All right, go ahead then. I know he's got like solo albums and stuff.
He does. Soon after leaving Kiss, Brulick, I was going to call him Brulick then.
Brulick,
Brulick,
his solo act.
It's my new band, Brulick. Soon after Kiss, Brulick formed the band Union with John Corabi, Brent Fitz, and Jamie Hunting in 1996. Corabi and Brulick wrote what would become the first album, the self-titled Union album, which was released in 1998. They proceeded with a nationwide acoustic tour to promote the album, featuring just Corabi and Brulick, both of them on guitars. Soon, the full band went on a world tour, headlining small venues in support of the album. Their second album, 1999's Live in the Galaxy, was a live recording with 2 acoustic tracks recorded in a mobile studio. The third album was The Blue Room. Then he joined Grand Funk Railroad, Brulick was the lead guitarist of Grand Funk Railroad from 2000 to 2023. He was in Grand Funk Railroad for 23 years. That's mad. Brulick had originally met Grand Funk Railroad drummer Don Brewer when Brewer was performing with Bob Seger during the 1983 tour with Michael Bolton. Following their December 14, 2023 concert in Ohio, Brulick departed Grand Funk Railroad. He also released some solo albums, yada yada yada. But get this, he earned a writing credit on the song "Never Let Me Down" by Kanye West on the album "The College Dropout." I went on that album. He is credited on that album.
I've got the song in my head. What the hell does he? I don't remember there being a guitar in that song.
Well, so
He
is
just
Michael
wrote some
Bolton.
stuff.
So is it sampled from a Michael Bolton?
Maybe.
So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe he wrote some bars. Maybe that was it. Kanye wouldn't like that, would he? Wouldn't want a Jewish man on his album. Anyway, carry on. He also, and Danny will like this, he performed with Lordi on the album The Apocalypse, playing lead guitar on the song It Snows in Hell. He also appeared on
Fucking
Paul
sick
Stanley's
solo.
2006 album Live to Win, playing bass. Only playing bass. Interesting. And that's that. That is Bruce. So back to the album.
Bruce.
The album comes out. Thank you, Bruce. You will be missed. He will genuinely be missed. It's a sad thing.
He's a real,
that,
real mensch. That's what I say about him.
he is a real. You have to
always say
define
that
him.
about
He's a real mensch.
Yeah.
He's a proper mensch. That's what they all say about him. But in many ways, he's kind of not gone yet. There's still a little, there's little sort of little bits of Bruce still left, as we'll go into. The album comes out and does well. It goes to number 3 on Billboard. And gets kind of okay reviews. Gets pretty good reviews. Are you guys interested in who actually plays on this album? What the actual credits are?
I've seen.
I had a look.
Yeah, rough.
But go through
things.
it. Go
on,
through
yeah.
it, man.
So I'll go very quickly. Paul Stanley, vocals, rhythm guitar, bass, and additional solos on track 3. Acoustic guitar on tracks 5, 8, and 10. Gene Simmons, vocals, bass, rhythm guitar on track 5. Ace Frehley, vocals and lead guitar on tracks 4, 6, and 11. 11 being the a track we're not going to talk about, which is a bonus track. Peter Criss, vocals on track
Wait, we're not going to talk about it.
and 8.
What?
What, in your face?
We're not going to talk about it in your
not
face.
listen to it, mate.
Oh, dude.
I'll listen to it quickly.
Okay, well,
I never heard that.
no, guys.
I've not
that's-
heard that. No, we're not. No, I don't think we're
Well, I'll
you can
cut
talk
this,
about
I'll cut
it
this
at the
out,
end.
but
You really want.
it's definitely worth a listen because it's basically like Ace's God of Thunder. Like it's a song about being the Starman or being Ace in a way.
Might have to listen to this.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Glad I
Okay.
listened to
Okay.
it.
Well, right.
Cool. Peter Criss, vocals on track 6 and 8, drums only on track 4. Kevin Valentine, drums except for track 4. Tommy Thayer, lead guitar and bass on track 5. Bruce Kulick, lead guitar on tracks 2 and 7.
Back.
Bass on tracks 1, 7, and 8. All guitars and bass on track 9. Shelley Berg, acoustic piano, orchestration, blah blah blah, and Bob Ezrin plays a Fender Rhodes on track 8. So it's a fucking mess. This in typical Kiss fashion, in a weird way. In terms of capturing, they are sort of capturing an era of Kiss, though, aren't they? They're sort of capturing the Dynasty Unmasked
Yeah.
kind of era. Do you know what I mean? In a weird way, it's not. It's kind of not like, it's not uncommon, is it? They sort of are harking back to a period. It's just maybe not the period they were intending. However, there is some controversy surrounding this album, and I'm not talking about the fact that the members don't play on it. Would you like to know what it is?
Is the clown on the
It's
cover
not that
too
the members
scary?
don't play on it.
Oh.
Oh no, something about the clown cover.
not
I
that.
know what.
No,
It's not that?
It is.
Yeah?
It is. The hip hop duo, the Insane Clown
Yes.
Posse, took
Oh,
issue with the
yeah.
album feeling it copied their style. The American rapper Violent J referred to this in their song Everybody Rise by rapping, "Fuck Gene Simmons, you make me sick. Psycho Circus, you stole my shit. Spit your blood out and do your dance, but I'm going to kick your ass through your leather pants." Ooh. Whoa.
Never change, ICP.
Yeah, never change. So, I think that is everything, and we can move on to the cover. Oh, wait! There's more. There is more, because this album had a video game tie-in. That is right. Released 2 years after the fact, which is not great. Is that really a tie-in? Probably not. But it is called Kiss Psycho Circus, The Nightmare Child. Luckily for all of you, we have someone here who has played this game, and I can run through a couple of questions for you. A bit of background on it. It is a first-person shooter. It was released in July 2000 for the Dreamcast, and as far as I can see, got mixed or average reviews if you listen to Wikipedia. But Danny, you got this game. You got this game on an emulator.
That's
First
not
of all,
true.
straight
It was
off the
also
bat,
released on
let's
PC,
stop-
and I played it on PC.
Sorry, it was released on PC. Forgive me. So, Danny, you've
Yes.
played this game.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you a couple of ask you a couple of questions. First of all, is this? Let's just cut right to it. Is this a good game?
Go on, Danny.
Really don't know how to answer that.
Is this?
It's-
Did you
it's-
enjoy playing it? Is this a good game?
No. Okay, that's a better question. No, I did not enjoy
Okay,
playing it.
You did not enjoy playing it. It's not a good game,
No.
then, is it?
Well,
So
I
it's not
suppose
good.
not. I think
Okay.
I would give it... No, you know what? Ask me the questions. Yeah. Okay, I don't like it, so I guess it's not a good game.
Okay, this is not a good game. Okay. Well, the next question is, why isn't it a good game? Why is this a bad game?
It didn't really reel me in many ways. It starts with really long cutscenes with this old woman voice acting
Yeah.
about like this
Okay.
in-game lore that I wasn't following. Maybe that's on me. And then I was thrust into this world of gritty rock and roll. The graphics are fine, especially for the era. I thought it looks fine and it plays pretty well. And I'm someone who likes older games from that era. So
yeah, same, yeah.
that's what I was hesitant to answer, because I think had you given me this as a kid, I think I probably would have liked it. I bet some people have mad nostalgia for this. It's perfectly playable, but I didn't enjoy it because I don't have any nostalgia for it. I didn't know what was going on, and its connection to the band seemed very minimal and tagged on. I'll say.
Yeah.
I bet this was a
Okay,
game
so
that was in development already. That was sort of, they were like, oh, we'll give them that game that we were working on, and we'll make it, because it very much just had a Kiss sheen to it. They were like,
Well,
little
that's the
references.
thing
There
that
was
I
like
was
a
gonna
poster that
ask.
said Wicked Jester drum kit, or like Hard Luck Lager.
Oh.
Well, that was something
Deuce
I was gonna.
gasoline.
That's something that I was. Well, that was something that I was gonna ask, which is, it makes sense to play as the four characters, right? You pick a character, and then you much like I did with the background, the testimonials.
Yeah.
They're not in the game, are they? As far as I'm aware, they are not playable characters within the game. You
Well-
don't actually play as them, right?
Well, you get a character selection screen, and it's like the Starman, maybe not even that direct. It's like
No,
Peter
no,
was
it's
like
slightly
the Beast
different.
or something. I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
Is it?
I've
yeah,
got them up
slightly
because
different.
the names stood out to me. Like, I think it's like they're meant to be like alter egos, or like they're not as the band members,
Yeah.
but they're like based on the band members.
They're not the band members.
Yeah, because Peter Chris is king of beasts,
The
which I
Nightmare
think is a
Cat.
really
King of
interesting
Beasts.
adaptation of Catman.
I picked Paul's, whatever Paul's was called, because I thought I gotta go with Paul. He's the man. But I did quickly before I stopped try Peter's, and it came up with a thing saying like, "This game has been intended to be played in a certain order. We recommend you start with the poor one." So you're not even it's not even advisable that you pick any old character.
Pick, like, who you play as.
No, you can.
So if
they
you
let
like...
you. It was just advising against it. So I tried Peter for a little bit too.
Does the story become even more confusing? I suppose it would.
It did. Yeah, I didn't understand it all.
Okay, so if we were doing if we were sort of reviewing a video game, would you recommend this game? I assume not.
I would not recommend this game. We should say I did only play it for maybe half an hour. I stopped when I got up to
half an hour.
Arachne Clown, which was
that was the other thing.
Clown spider.
I was gonna say I've seen some like shots of like the artwork for this game. It's so fucking ugly and like garish. Like the color schemes and like the art direction, the designs, the creatures are just fucking wank. They're horrible.
Yeah, but it's just.
I thought.
It's kind
of
the
a lot of those games don't hold up in how they look, but are still well respected. Also, it's not my sort of game. Like, I switched to easy after my first death minutes in because I was like, I don't want to have to deal with this. I fought against the Blade Master, who was the first boss, and he went down very easily. And then he said, "Oh!" like after the first hit. That was the end of the first boss. I was impressed by it. Like, there's lots of interactable objects and stuff, and you can like stuff like I had to like move a barrel to a door and then blow it up to move forward, but with no sense of conveyance. Like, I just had to figure that out. So I think it's probably, but then a lot of old games are like that. Look, I'm not a video game reviewer, so I don't want to be too harsh on it. But to answer your question, Alexei, I would not recommend it to anyone.
Okay, well that's that, and with that we can move on to the album cover.
Rips off Insane Clown Posse. That's what it does.
What I was about to... You know what? I'm not going to lie, man. I kind of get what Shaggy 2 Dope... Was it Shaggy 2 Dope? There wasn't. It was Violent J. I kind of understand what Violent J is on about. Because for me, like, it's really Juggalo. It's really Juggalo. It's not very Kiss. Yeah. Like, whenever I think of like scary clowns and music, I just think of the Insane Clown Posse. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of this it looks a bit like fan art to me, like something that might be on like DeviantArt or something like that. And considering that they made an absolute bomb on the tour, I made a fucking load of money. It looks really cheap. Some of it is quite low resolution, particularly around the mouth of the and the chin of like the scary clown. It's hard to tell whether the Kiss logo is like part of the Carnival trailer or it's just sort of superimposed over it. It's kind of difficult to figure that out. And once again, it's not symmetrical. The whole thing needs nudging just a touch to the left. Just a touch to the left. Look at it and you'll see what I mean. The black backdrop, behind the Carnival trailer just kind of makes it look unfinished, which kind of adds to how cheap it is. I'm really not mad about.
I've got a thing to say though.
This one,
Alexei. I've got a suspicion because on the Wikipedia it's different, and it looks like it might have been like a lenticular cover. When you like move it and you see the clown and then you see the band members.
Yeah. No, you're right. I've got another version that I've been looking at.
I can see the one you're looking at on streaming platforms. Yeah. There's that very weird black background. It looks so cheap.
Yeah, that's the one. That's it. Yeah. And then multiple covers. Oh shit.
Well, I'm just on Wikipedia. It's like this weird blur between the members and the clown with Kiss imposed over the top. Do you know what I mean? It looks like one of those things.
I can see that. That looks better.
Yeah.
That looks much better because it's a curtain, right?
Yeah. It still doesn't look good.
No, that works better.
But
well, which one are we going to rate? Which one are we going to fucking rate? Well, this is all right. That one is all right. The one that I've seen on streaming platforms, that's not so great. It's very juggalo-y. But even with the clown, it's still quite juggalo-y. Even if it is a kid, like the quality's better. Yeah, it's still, it's still like juggalo-y. It doesn't really suit them. That's the thing, is that it's sort of fallen into like almost lordy territory, which is fine for them. But I do think, which is kind of what you want from them, but I do think at this point in their career, it's too late for them to sort of try to play that. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't go this far into career. They're too old. You're too old. It's too late for you. You've made a name for yourself doing a certain thing. You can't just be like, oh, now we're sort of tapping into this niche. You should have done that from the get-go. And you were sort of being encouraged to do that from the get-go. I do think ICP have a point. It sounds fucking crazy. I do generally think they have a point. I think when I see evil clowns in music, I just think, oh, that's juggalos. And I guess you could argue that Slipknot, they have an evil clown. But
I was going to bring up Slipknot, yeah.
But that's one of 8. Do you know what I mean? That's one of 8. So I'm cool. I'm cool with that. Sorry, my bad. I did not crown Chris Fenn in that. I do apologise. 1 of 9. The whole cover, in a strange way, I think, and I can't really describe it. Maybe you guys can help me. Kind of helps contribute to the idea that this doesn't feel like a real album. Or not a proper album. There's something about it. I think maybe it's like the cheapness and the fact that it's not really them. It's not really their sort of vibe.
Yeah, there's sort of like classic pictures of them. Sort of makes it seem like it's a compilation album or like a tribute sort of thing.
Yeah.
Compilation's a good shout. 'Cause it's like, oh yeah, here's the Psycho Circus and like, everything's involved. But maybe that's, I mean, we say the word greatest hits, one of the big criticisms I have of this album is how self-aware and meta it is, disingenuously, and maybe that was part of the thinking behind this, because it looks like, oh, you're entering into the Psycho Circus, you're entering into the show, the 4 original members, and the shock rock, the legend and the bombast. Well, none of it's true. Who would like to go first? Alex, what do you think, mate? What do you think of this cover?
It's not amazing, but I like the clown going, "Arr!" and it's the best cover in a long, long time. Honestly, it's in. We always say like, oh, if you found this in a record store, like, what would you think? Would you be interested? Would you be curious? You absolutely would be for this one. Whether you think it's your taste or not, I don't know. But compared to the past, 5, 6 albums, this is interesting. And it kind of, does it fit the music? Probably not, but like I say, it's interesting.
No.
That's all I gotta say.
But you can barely see the members, man.
Yeah, but I think it's fine. I think I don't think I need to see like the members like fight close up. I don't know, like we just had so many shit album covers for so long. The last good one was Creatures of the Night.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to take a semi-interesting one. And it looks very different. They've gone for a different style, and I want to applaud that.
I agree. I think this is actually I would argue this is one of their worst covers.
No, I really don't like it. I think it's tacky. It's cheap and tacky. It's got me wondering.
It's very cheap. Yeah.
Were Scary Clowns in? Because we said Insane Clown Posse, we said Slipknot, both of the similar era of this time. I just feel like it's them mooching off the zeitgeist again, except that it's a bit more specific and that it's spooky new metal clowns. Because isn't that what...
Yeah, but you compare this to Carnival of Souls cover or freaking Revenge.
It's more too...
I think it's more.
It's bigger in a way that Kiss should be, and I like that. So I agree with that. I don't think it's one of their worst.
It feels more like Revenge.
I don't like it, though. It's better than Revenge. Revenge is boring. Kiss,
it is bigger, but it's bigger in a really cheap way.
It's cheap. I don't even like the name of the album. It's Psycho Circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
rubbish, yeah.
I don't know how they could have made me like this front cover. It doesn't. I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't look like a reunion album front cover. It's so like.
Yeah.
What if you said out like it's like a weird a knockoff bootleg DVD tie-in. All of those words come to mind. It's very cheap. This isn't like. Yeah, we're back together, guys. Remember Kiss, who you love? Because it's just this big cloud in the middle.
I know, isn't it?
I'm probably being too mean. It is bigger. I like that it's bigger and it's trying to be more noticeable because, I'll take this over Hot in the Shade any day.
Oh,
Yeah, it's better than that.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on track by track. First, kicking off the album is a Paul song. This is the title track. I have to say, straight off the bat, thematically and musically, it's kind of more or less where I kind of want Kiss to be. What do you think, Danny?
Yes, completely agree. It's
Yeah.
it's generic good, and that's sadly where they shine the most.
Yeah, but with with the touch of the shock rock as well, tapping into
Yeah.
more of like a dark. I mentioned Lordy, and Creatures of the Night is a big one as well. It's darker, it's a bit more theatrical. It's tapping into the shock rock a little bit more. This is kind of where they should be, right? Anyway, Danny, what do you think? Give me your thoughts.
It starts with like noisy circus sound effects. I'm like, okay, I see it. Very good. Psycho Circus. And then instantly, I'm with you, Alexei. I thought, fuck yes, give me Paul, give me riffs, give me good fucking mixing. I was so happy. This is easily the best mixing that we've had on any album yet. It sounds big. The drums finally sound modern and punchy, especially the kick was really slamming on this. Like, I already knew this song. This was the only one I already knew. And I do like the chorus. It's not blowing my mind, but it's rocking in a way that I just think Kiss should. Similar to what you're saying, Alexei. It's what I want out of Kiss.
It's pitched perfectly. I think it's pitched perfectly. I think in terms of what they should be, makeup-wise, this and Creatures are kind of more or less on the money. It's in the right ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah, and the backing vocals in the chorus especially are great. The little bends that the vocal harmonies are doing are what make that chorus to me. That works so well. There is their trademark pointless instrumental in the middle before the guitar solo, but I wrote whoever's playing the solo is toning it down and mimicking Ace in a really good way, and it works well.
Do you not think it begs the question though? Do you not think it begs the question though? What Ace couldn't play that?
Well, that's true. I agree with that. Yeah, Ace could definitely.
That's what I mean. That. Of course, he could have played that. It's utterly ridiculous. I go the same with the drums as well,
him miming in the music video doesn't come across well when you know that it's not even him.
Peters is worse.
I looked at his fingers. It looks
worse.
like he's playing the solo. It looks like he could play it.
He's really just like, well, it sounds a bit like he's doing this.
I don't know about the breakdown with like those big sudden stabs that they're doing. That's a little bit reminded me of the last album. But still, the chorus lifts this song tremendously. This song is safe in the best of ways. Because we've said in the past that we want them to experiment and we want them to be a bit more like early Alice Cooper, especially back in the Destroyer era. But at this point in their career, at their age, maybe I do just sort of want them to do that lowest common denominator that Paul especially is able to pull off. Just get a good hook, get a rockin' arrangement. The problem is, throughout their career, they just cannot produce an album of these. They cannot get through a full album of this quality. If they could do this quality for a full album, I think we'd talk about them so differently.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, overall, I mean, it was growing on me too as I was listening to it. I think I'd have loved this when I was like getting into this sort of music as a tween or however old I was. I think this should have been on the greatest hits that I had. I think it's rock. Again, we brought up Lordy. This could be a Lordy song, and I was overall quite surprised by this. This is really very positive for me. I liked it a lot. Alex?
Well, we've been saying like this is meant to be the reunion album. And this was a really great first track for that. Like, obviously now we know more about what actually went on and who actually played. But this is it returns to an older sound for them. And it amazed me learning that it wasn't Ace and Peter, because on first listen, I was like, well, there's Ace doing a freaking dad rock solo, like the sort of like that return to that style, and then even on the drumming, we get like a big emphasis on toms, which was very much a Peter thing, sort of thing. So I don't know how intentional that was, but I picked up on it, and like Dan was saying, it's just a good opener, and I bet it's great at a live show. I would be very surprised if they didn't open with it, because it's just a big one. It gets the vibe right, and obviously like thematically, it's just like a big opener of a song. What they're talking about, like welcoming you in. I think it's just like a straight to the point, simple and effective like rock anthem sort of thing. Reminds me a bit of like King of the Nighttime World or those sorts of openers that it just puts you in the right mood. So I thought this was a good one, and it grew on me, like you were saying, Danny. It grew on me on more listens. Like the hook is there, and it just punches in the right way. For this, so, yeah.
I think the lyrics, when you put this in context of a reunion record, are kind of great. I think the whole mood is like, we're back. No one leaves until the night is done. The makeup running down my face. The carnival's just begun. Here I am. Here we are.
Right.
In that way, it's quite great. It's quite great at setting the scene. So if you kind of listen to this in the context of like the four members are back and they're blasting off with this, and you're like, you in the Psycho Circus, we're gonna sort of, we're gonna blow you away. That whole thing. It's really good. It kind of elevates it a little bit if you listen to it in that context. However, this is a problem, because in general, this is Kiss's it's their most like meta album, but in a very cynical way, particularly knowing what is going on behind the scenes, and that looms over this track. And in that way, I can't really take those sort of more meta aspects seriously. It's much worse on other songs, way worse on other songs, because there's only so many times you can pull the wool over your audience's eyes, man, until it's like just becomes insulting. However, musically, it buzz, it bangs, it's a foot stomper. It's what Paul just does best, and it's purely enjoyable on that level. So it doesn't really matter what it doesn't really matter what the context behind it, at least with this track. So the next track, Within. I mean, my main thing is like, Gene, didn't you get this out of your system with Carnival of Souls?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was bamboozled.
Is this the time
to see this?
Is track 2 on your reunion album the time for this track?
And you're saving something like this track, which you obviously didn't think was like good enough to go on Carnival of Souls, or else you would have ditched it. So for the reunion record, you really thought this would be a good track too. Alex, what do you think, mate?
Well, you've already kind of said it a bit there, that like even from before we hear Gene, the start of this song, we get this kind of backwards guitar thing, right? Which
It's Bruce.
Yeah, which was that a Bruce thing from the last album. They experimented a little bit with that, and so I mean,
backwards guitars.
What was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the backwards
Reverse
Backwards
guitar.
guitars,
Yeah. And so I mean, they thought like, oh, okay, we're gonna go that direction, and they've learned a little bit from their time on Carnival of Souls. Apparently not quite so much. This was, I think, a leftover, and they decided to throw it on, which again, number 2 on this album, strange choice, especially with some of the songs they left off it. So we get this very, kind of grungy sort of sound from Gene again, though with a little bit of like better mixing and production, kind of what Danny was referring to on the last track, though it isn't quite as good. I think the drums really punch in this one. Like this, like the chorus is really thudding in like a nice way, which I quite like. And we get something which they experiment a bit on this album, the sort of the dual vocal stuff, where it's like the verse comes back along with the chorus at the same time, which kind of works, especially for Gene's voice. I thought it'd be a bit too much, but it's not too overpowering, and it's just nicely mixed in there. So I applaud them for that. The song itself, it's It's fine. It's very forgettable, and very odd choice for this album and this placement on the album. I know
It's not terrible for Gene, is it?
No,
it's not
no,
terrible
but
for
it's just
Gene. It's all right. It's
like,
all
like,
right.
like stuff we talked about in Carnival of Souls. It's just sort of like, yeah, all right. I'm getting really sick of. I think he's done it for a while, but I've really started to pick up on it on this album. But when Gene wants to sound smart, what he does is he just constantly writes contradictions. So, like, he'll just like here opens up. Hold on, like. Night Without Day, Fly Without Wings, Touch Without Feel. He's done this on quite a few songs, and it's really, really bothering me. Just sort of like, oh, I'm awake, but my eyes are shut, sort of thing.
Lazy.
Yeah, it's lazy.
Yeah, exactly. Very lazy.
I wrote here, I can't find exactly where it is in the song, but I put it in quotes. Inside you, without your blessing. And I just thought, that's... Gene should not be writing that, considering how we feel.
No.
Yeah, about his.
No, you of all people.
Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah.
I think this is.
It's interesting you were saying Carnival. Sorry. I was saying it was interesting you say Carnival of Souls. I reckon this is better than like the majority of stuff off Carnival of Souls, though. It's better than it's better than fucking In My Head or that. What's it called? That really bad one. Childhood's End. It's better than that. Definitely. I think I read somewhere that he actually wrote this in the sessions for Carnival of Souls.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. That was a leftover from that. Yeah, but it's like a middling one. It's not one. It wouldn't be the best one from Carnival of Souls either. It's fine. The extra production value and attention to it helps, but I'm not gonna say it's great.
Yeah. Danny, what do you think of Within?
I'm also not going to say it's great. I liked the reverse guitar harmonies. I thought, oh, it sounds like Bruce, and it was, which is good. Nice to hear that. In typical Kiss fashion, though, the song has nothing to do with that intro. Like, it doesn't have to. Lots of songs do that, but it always just comes across as unorganized when they do it. Like, they're like, oh, let's just put that cool thing Bruce did on the guitar at the start. I don't know. Well, I'm glad you said the drums are slamming, Alex, because I was wondering. I was listening to this on my studio setup, which I don't usually, which has a subwoofer, and so it was sounding bigger than usual. But I do think it's also just the production is so much better. The drums are slamming so much harder. And just the song is boring Gene shit. I think he's educating us again here. I think he's opening our minds to different types of music. I think because it's got that bit of a drone to it. It's a bit psychedelic. I think he thinks this is very Tomorrow Never Knows and so deep and it's blowing people's minds. There's little bits I like. There are some chunks before the change up. There's like a little 2-note guitar solo thing that works. Harmonized lead guitar bit works well. I mean, it's the better end of his vocals, but they're still pretty grating as usual. And the bass is way too fucking loud at the end.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
Overall,
to mention that.
I think... Yeah.
Yeah, bass is loud.
You guys both said it, and I wrote, I mean, not awful for Gene. But like I just said, like, why is this track 2 on this album? That's so oddly placed.
I know. I put that. It just makes the track listing just seem like all over the place. Do you know what I mean? If it's going to be on an album, I would have put it maybe track 5, like bang in the middle.
Again, for Gene, I'll take it. What do you think, Alexei? Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I think it's not terrible for Gene. All the same things you said. I actually think the middle 8 is pretty cool. I think the middle 8 is quite cool, like the sort of harmonized guitar parts over the shuffle. I do like it. Sounds kind of heavy. Again, though, after Psycho Circus, it's not great. It's not a great second track. Number 3, I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll. I mean, this is fine, right? Isn't it? This song is absolutely fine. Alex, what do you think?
Before we talk about the music, like when I read this track name, I felt it was like a parody of a Kiss song. Like, if you like took like what would like an old like Kiss anthem be? Like, I pledge allegiance to rock and roll is like just something you just like throw out there, be like, yeah. It's really silly. This one, it's sort of with a few songs off this album, there's parts where things don't just gel together in the best way. which is kind of frustrating because you go, there might be something good there. Like this one, I kind of like the verses. There's kind of like a pop punk sort of feel to it. This energy, but the chorus melody, which it just doesn't work for me, or it's just very, very dull. But now when we go back to for like a reunion album and what expecting, this is kind of that thing again. It's a very sort of retrospective song.
It's exactly what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. They do sound much older. Coming here, especially with the title, it sounds very much like Republican rock. I can imagine this playing at like a Republican rally, this sort of thing. It's just very sort of safe
GOP
and
rally.
just kind of like old school rock and roll. But yeah, this one, it just never quite got going for me. I just don't think the verse and chorus mesh together in a nice way. And this was the track where I started to miss Eric, because I think the drums are starting to feel a bit more rigid, a bit more stale, as compared to previous albums. And yeah, I think that starts to become a thing going forward. But that's all I've really got to say about this one. Danny?
Yeah. I wrote the same things. Like, this feels like he's really leaning into the nostalgia fad. It is the sort of thing I wish they'd been making in the 70s. Something with a bit of energy, very AC/DC lyrics.
Yeah.
I might have liked this as a kid or a teenager. And I do mean that as a compliment. There's a magic in that feeling, when you're young and you're just getting into rock and roll and stuff. Yeah. So I appreciate that. But again, I'm with you, Alex. I can't say I'm fucking with it very hard at all. And I'm just not hearing a hook. The hook's not there. And it didn't grow on me. There's really not much there, I think, in this song. And it did make me I was thinking just now as you were talking, Alex, at the same time as, there's room for complimenting them in the sense that they're throwing back and they're giving the fans what they want and it's nostalgia and we're having fun with this, 70s sound. I do want a band to grow and I want an artist to grow as they go through their career. So, and I don't want to give mixed messages because I've said things about them like Psycho Circus. I was like, no, this is what they do best. It's sort of, just a simple rockin' track. That's what I want out of them. I think there's a middle ground though where you're able to do that, but also, use the fact that you've matured as an artist to go somewhere.
Yeah, I think with the Psycho
this isn't
Circus,
that at all.
I think with the Psycho Circus comparison though, as you can tell, he put a lot of effort into Psycho Circus. This is the kind of song that he sort of jizzes out. Do you know what I mean? Like, This is the kind of anthem song he can sort of write in his sleep, isn't it? Really, and I think that's the main thing. It's fine for them to go back and write songs like that. It's just put some fucking effort into it.
Well, that's what I mean about them not being able to keep up an album of Psycho Circuses. They couldn't do that. They have to do songs like this. Well, and it's not terrible, this song. But it's not.
It's not, is it? It's fine. It's like absolutely fine. If you were a Kiss fan and you under the assumption this was the 4 original members doing it, you'd probably dig this. You'd probably be fine with it.
Well, yeah, but it's not, and I know that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you take that aspect away, and it's still fine, isn't it? It's still fine. Like it's really. I mean, I think his vocals are good. His vocals are great. But overall, this is kind of what we've heard before, and it's the kind of thing that if you wanted Kiss to go back to that sound, with or without the original members, you just wanted them to hop back to the sound. This is the kind of thing you'd be looking for, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, in a
musically,
way, it's better. If you
musically, it sounds like the Foo Fighters. It does. Musically, it sounds like the Foo Fighters.
The
just
verses
with
a little
different
bit.
subject matter,
The chorus.
different vocals. Different vocals.
Well, the Foo Fighters are all right, but I don't love them, so it checks out.
So there you go. Because the Foo Fighters are all right, but we don't love them.
Yeah.
This song, Ergo, is all right, but we don't love it. Next song, Ace, Into the Void. Ace wrote this. He wrote this, and this is, like Peter said, the only song with all 4 original members playing. Isn't it amazing that in like 20 plus years, Ace has not changed his sound
Yeah.
at all. Barely at all. He sounds exactly the same. It's just better production. That is amazing. Danny, what do you think?
I agree with that. I was very
It's amazing.
rooting.
I was like,
for
oh,
him
that's
here.
Ace. That's Ace. Like, you know, you can sort of tell maybe a little bit with Paul's, with like, you know, I Pledge Allegiance and Psycho Circus. They've been modernized a bit. There's a bit of a modern. With this, I was just like, oh, yeah, that's Ace. That is
Ace.
it's just, it's paint by numbers, straight up and down Ace. Anyway, Danny, what are you saying? You're rooting for him.
Yeah, I was in his corner. I was thinking, come on, Ace. I wanted this to be really good. And it starts, and it's a nice Ace-ish riff. Like you said, it's Ace. We're there. And I did write very early, this is adorable. And I think it's because of what we were just saying.
It
It's
is,
just like, oh my God, this is just like, talk
This
to
has
me
got a
or
charm
whatever.
to it. Yeah, this
Yeah.
has definitely got a charm to it. Yeah, but you'd have to have that history first.
Maybe
You know,
that's
if
true.
it was
Yeah,
like-
because I.
No, I was going to say, if this was the first Ace song you had ever heard, and this was your introduction to him, you'd think nothing of it, really, would you? You'd sort
Maybe
of be like,
not.
okay, cool. But having that history
Well,
and knowing the context, which again is important in music sometimes. I mean, people say that
Yes.
it's not and you should judge it on its own merits. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think context and history is important. So hearing it in that, it is sweet. It's lovely. It's really nice to hear him again.
Yeah, it's nice to
after
have
so
him
long,
back.
right? It's nice.
Yeah.
Doing exactly what he
And-
does as well. Like exactly what he does. Carry on.
Well, I thought I'll take that chorus, and then it might even be a grower. And I was right. Later, I was like, yes, it is a grower. I do like this chorus. I think it gets in a better way to the previous track. I thought if they're looking to offer an updated version of their old sound, Ace has got it here. That's absolutely what
Yeah.
they're doing on this track. And in a way, it made me think, actually, being stuck in the past, like you could argue Ace is here, is much less embarrassing than the trend chasing this band has been doing for how many decades now. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's less embarrassing to me. It's like, well, that's just the sort of music I make, and I'm still making music like that. That's who I am. That is so much better to me than trying to make a fucking grunge album. It comes across way better.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when Alice Cooper went from doing like Dragon Town and Brutal Planet and then did The Eyes of Alice Cooper and what's that song called? What's that album called? Diamonds, Dirty Diamonds. You know what I mean? It's fine for bands to go back in it, and it probably comes off a lot better, particularly at a certain age. It's cool for bands to go back, you know. And I
Yeah.
think this is a good example of it. Again, when you put effort into it, yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Yes, and I don't just think it's the fact that it's Ace's voice. I think it is a better written song for what it's going for, that kind of the nostalgia stuff, the throwbacks. You can very much hear that it's Peter on this one. His style is really hard to describe. I wrote dubba dubba, dubba dubba. I think that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know if you'll agree, Alexei. I put drums are great. Really, I think I really do
They're
doubt
not great,
underrators.
mate. They're not.
at
They're
this
not
point.
great. They're not great. They're fine.
put it this way,
They're
like,
serviceable.
He is not
They're
the best drummer in the
reasonable.
world,
But
but they describe him as a wreck, as a mess who could
like
barely
he can
hold
barely
the
play.
sticks.
Yeah, but at this point,
I don't buy
he
it.
has learned. At this point, he has learned some chops. But then Paul makes the argument he only learned how to play the old stuff and couldn't learn like new stuff. But like 2 years touring, he's obviously developed some chops. Whether or not he could play, you know, when they started getting back together, I don't know. But surely after 2 years or whatever of touring, he must have got some better. I mean, it's fine. The drumming here isn't great, in my opinion. It's fine. But I also think the drumming on the title track is fine. I think the drumming on Within is fine. I think the drumming on I Pledge Allegiance to the State of Rock All is fine. I think he probably could have played on all of those, and he probably wouldn't have batted an eyelid.
He really could have. There's
Yeah,
a
I
great
think so.
Ace solo. It's a bit short. I'd have liked more of that, honestly. I'm going to skip ahead to my conclusion and read a quote that I wrote in my conclusion because I think it's more relevant here because it's about this song. This is on Wikipedia. It's, well, I'll read what it says. Despite claiming...
Oh, is
he
it
and
when they made him
Stanley-
change the name?
Yes. This is,
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, despite Simmons claiming he and Stanley needed to provide substantial help arranging the song, Cochran stated, as far as the basic structure, almost nothing was changed from what Ace wrote. I have the original demos that were cut in Ace's studios, and basically, it's the same song. Ace just changed the title of the song after the demo was done. And this quote really reinforced what I've been thinking about Paul especially. I really think we're getting a one-sided story. And it's great that he's given us this autobiography because it really helps us, especially you, Alexei. But I think we get a very one-sided story because of that.
It is very one-sided. Yeah.
And
yeah, no, totally.
Listen to this song and tell me the two what did Jing call them? Lesser members or whatever he called them.
Yeah, that's
weaker members. Couldn't have played on every track. I think it's a real shame, and it's one of the best tracks on the album. Really, Alex, what do you think?
I agree. Also, sorry, just on that, I think it gives more to the fans than anything.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's giving absolutely.
I really don't want to give too much away, but it does way more for the fans than the fucking shoehorned in, self-aware, nostalgic, novelty crap that is on this album later on. 100%. When it's just them all together in a room doing an Ace song like this, and it sounds like an Ace song, that is way more from the fans than the sort of shoehorned, contrived shit that they do later on. Absolutely. Anyway, Alex, what do you think?
What Danny was saying about them not chasing trends and just going back to this classic sound, it works here because Ace, he believes this stuff. Like this sort of song, this sort of rock and roll, whatever, it's really him. And that's something we've always praised him for when he was doing his solo album and the other songs. Though they're not all great songs, and some of them you can tell like he was sort of half-assing or he wasn't quite fully there. You can hear it in him that this is the music he wants to make. And though it's kind of is intangible at times, it does come across and it does have an effect. It really does. And this track is a great example of it because there's nothing complicated or special here, but it's a really fun listen and it's so great to hear Ace like this. It fits him perfectly. It's very much him, that sort of like blend of classic rock with the little like kind of psychedelic flavoring that he kind of has. And his unique style of singing, but he sounds good here. Like you were saying, Alexei, he still sounds like he did 20 years ago. I really enjoyed this.
It sounds the same.
This on the album. Just simply again, I think I'm going to say this in each track now, but on first listen, I was just seeing this as a reunion song, and on first listen, I thought, oh wow, they put an Ace track fourth on the in the track listing, which I know it doesn't sound like much, but like, you know, back in the day, they would always put the non-Paul and Gene songs right at the very back, right? And so it being fourth was sort of like, oh yeah, they're taking this seriously, sort of thing. Little did I know. So I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good on you, Ace.
Yeah. I did as well. You're totally right. Musically, it just sounds it's an Ace song, which and actually, in terms of it sounding like an Ace song, I actually think the chorus is above standard for Ace, or at least what we've had from him in the past. And you're right, it's really, really nice to hear, and it's worth bearing in mind that their worst fears of having the 4 original members actually play resulted in one of the best things on the album. The next one is We Are One. I hate this.
Is this the track you were talking about? This is what I was talking about.
This is the one that I was talking about.
We're in agreement.
I'm just gonna get my thoughts sort of out of the way instead of bookending it. I think this is trying to be very, very meta. It's about the fans and what they've built and their connection to the fans, particularly now that they're like back together and stuff like that. And it's just like pulling their collective trousers down and just finger blasting them into like oblivion. It's the fact that it's trying to be sentimental that really, really takes the piss. Again, knowing what's happening behind the scenes, it just shits all over it. And it's a bad song as well. It's a really not a good song. It's obviously a chord structure which is very popular in the day. It doesn't suit Gene at all. At all. It's pathetic. He sings it very, very badly. It's lazy. And again, that sort of nostalgic stuff where it's like, we're back together, and you know what? We're all together. Us four, the fans, we are together. You know, I look back and my face is staring back at me because you're wearing the makeup. And it's just like knowing what happens, and it does cast a shadow. It absolutely fucking ruins it. I think it's so insulting to their fan base. It's cynical. It's insulting to their audience. In many ways, I think it deserves to go in the bin, but I can be dissuaded otherwise. Alex, what do you think, mate?
This was very strange on first listen. I was thinking like, because I read the title and I was like, that's a Paul track. That's a Paul track coming up, absolutely, and we're gonna get this big ballad sort of thing. And it starts off and like, oh, okay, yeah, and then to hear Gene like this. Have we heard Gene in this sort of fashion? I'm not even sure what to call it.
So.
Not really.
Yeah, he's trying something different.
This is kind of like soft rock power ballady.
Yeah, it's that weird mix. It's not quite full ballad.
Matchbox 20 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a tinge of like Oasis about it as well. I don't know, that sort of like 90s anthem.
Would have been big at the time. They would have been big at the time.
Yeah. I'm not going to trash it as much as you, Alexei, because weirdly enough, I mean, it sticks to a pattern. I think...
But it sounds awful. Yes. It's not even that it sticks. He just sings it so badly.
I think
and it's
if
what
you
it
give this to a
for
different singer...
And what it means.
Yeah, if you give it to a different singer, I think this could be an okay song somewhere. Again, I'm judging most of this on the listens where I wasn't aware of the history, and I was thinking, I wrote mostly like, yeah, Gene doesn't sound good, and it is really sort of hacky, but the sort of like pre-chorus melody and the hook itself, I think it given to a much better singer, it could work. And again, I wrote down I like that they sort of do like multi-layered singing stuff. Going back again because they haven't experimented with that before. But I listened to this once and then I don't really want to hear Gene sing it again, because he is the complete wrong man for this sort of thing in terms of his singing voice and him as a person, him as a character. It doesn't work. Sorry, Gene.
It's the none of the members I don't think would have suited this. I don't even think Paul would have suited this.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I don't think Paul would.
No. Danny, what are you saying?
Yeah, this fucking song, man. I mean, the first listen, it was more like, look, I can get behind this sound, but Gene, like for Gene to be the one on this track, and you're right, no one would sing it well. But I don't hate this sort of song. I like cheesy, poppy ballads. But on the second listen, it really took me to a dark place, this song. It's just, like, this sort of sound has to be pulled off well. And this sounds so phoned in. And, like, I know I'm not this. I don't know him that well. I've seen some interviews with him. I know he doesn't have this sort of outlook. I know he's very cynical, and so this just comes across as so disingenuous.
He's just like look at those schmucks out there. Look at those fucking schmucks out there in my fucking makeup, buying my fucking toilet seats with my face on and my fucking bins. With, you know, he doesn't care about this. He doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah, and even just stylistically, like he's seen that this sells, but he's not fucking Natalie Imbruglia. He can't do a song like this. And for him to sing this shit after, you know, both in interviews, in his image, character, and out of character, to be coming across as like the biggest fucking loveless misanthrope ever. And it comes across so cold-hearted. Really quite psychopathic, I thought. Almost cynical. Horseshoe to the point where I thought, like, is he doing a thing? Is he doing a very, like, ironic bit? And I know he'd defend it with a sort of, like, oh no, I love everyone. I just care about the freedom of man, and I have a lot of love in me. I have so much love, and oh no, I didn't write that it should be in the bin, but hearing you say that, Alexei, yeah, I'll like to put it in the bin. I really don't like this one.
I mean, this is a man. This is a man that said he named his second album Arsehole because, much like black people taking back the N-word, he thinks he needs to reclaim the word that is rightfully describes him. Like, this isn't.
What?
Like, this is what he said. He said that really recently. Like, this isn't what he thinks. This is not what he thinks, and it's so cynical, and it's the fact that it's trying to be sentimental. And I think the history behind what is actually going on behind the scenes, it's catastrophic. This is absolutely catastrophic. I think it deserves to go in the bin. But Alex, it's got to be free.
What do you think, Alex?
On the.
You didn't see. What about the bit where he goes, "It's all true."
on sort of the messaging alone, I think we can put it in the bin. Because like I say, like it was
right. Yeah.
It was. I don't think it was a good song to all. I didn't want to listen to it again. But I'm thinking just like, just you're just completely the wrong person for it. Like it was just like a complete mismatch. Yeah. And I didn't think of it beyond that.
The singing's bad.
But
when he's trying to be, I'm actually starting to think that when he's trying to be sensitive, it is like the worst mode of Gene. There's loads of stuff off his solo album where he's trying to be sensitive. There's that awful song off Elder, The World Without Heroes, when he's trying to be sensitive and sentimental and stuff like that. It's the worst. It's the worst because it's like you're not fooling anyone.
Okay.
It's embarrassing for you to be doing this, or I Wish Upon a Star, or whatever. Like it's just
it's going in the bin.
It's not fair on anyone, is it? Really, it's not giving anyone a fair shake, so it's going in the bin. No, it's not fair on anyone, and it's not giving anyone a fair shake, so it's going in the bin. All right, first entry. I don't think it'll be the last entry, by the way. That's just me. The next one. You wanted the best. This just feels like Peter and Ace were just like told, "Peter, Ace, we have prepared the reunion song for you both. Here are your verses." That's what it feels like to me. Very contrived, very cynical, and very disingenuous. But Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right, but I obviously like it a lot more than you. I think everything I say, I will start by saying, yeah, that's true. It is very cynical, this song. It is obviously very arranged and, scripted. But it opens, and that's the sort of riff that I want from this album. It's energetic. Mm-hmm. I like it. I thought, fuck yes, as soon as Paul started singing. I thought, finally, some Peter. This is the first Peter vocals that we've had.
Yeah, he does sound sick.
Arguably the best singer in the band. He sounds so good.
I would agree with you that like the vocal performances on this track are all amazing. Ace is great. Ace is like really, really raspy. He's really, really blasting it, and it's great. It's astonishing hearing them in context with Gene, and it just goes to show, like juxtaposed to Gene, how much better at singing they all are than him. Anyway, carry on. You were saying Peter.
Well, yeah, I'm all over actually the idea of the shared singing more. All the way back in I always forget the name of that song. There's that one song at the end of it's either Dynasty or Unmasked where like Paul and Ace are doing this. They're both doing different vocal parts. Save Your Love, thank you. I really like it when they play with that aspect of things. It's a fun aspect of Kiss, and it's something that we're all focused on, especially on this album. So I really like the sort of concept of this song. Actually, if it was made more genuinely, I'd probably like it even more. I thought, again, look, I've really missed Peter. I really missed Peter when he's singing. I thought, God damn, it's so nice to have him singing again. Apparently, I read this is the only lead guitar work Ace does on the whole album. In which case, great solo and very Ace. Or at least the first full solo he does or something. The chorus isn't great. I thought that was a shame. It's not a good chorus. You can tell, Gene, not great. Also, there's like weird voices at the end. I don't understand. There's some weird...
Well, that's another thing that I hate about it. That's another thing that I hate about it. They're trying to put banter from like behind the scenes of them all together.
It sounded like very fake banter.
It sounds like outtakes, and that's even worse, man. because it's trying to play off this idea that like, oh, they're together and it's this is, and you know they put their differences aside and this is the big like reunion stuff, and it's just all fucking bullshit, and that's not fair. If you, I mean, maybe I'm I'm taking this a bit more, but I just think you can't just shaft your audience like that. It's you.
Okay.
You've done it so much already. And this is such a blatant... This is what I really don't like the song. Because this is such... It's AI. This is such a blatant attempt.
No, I think that's too far. That is too far.
Fan base for all that it's worth. It's not fair. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Musically, it's fine. Musically, it's pretty good. And I think the vocals are great. But I think just what it stands for and what it means. I'm like, you can't... This is so wrong. I don't know how you could look yourself in the mirror and these people that put money in your pocket.
They're allowed to try to get across the sound and idea that they want this album to be. No matter how dysfunctional things might have been behind the curtain, you can, like, I think it's one thing to lie in the vibe that you're getting across to the fans, because that, I will argue, there is a level of professionalism where you're like, well, we don't want to make a depressing album just because we're depressed. The fans might not be interested in that. This is our reunion album. I think there's a bit of a sense of like, come on, guys, we have to try and make the album that we're trying to make here. Do you know what I mean? They're allowed to try and control the vibe that they're putting across to their fans. Now that's not the same as then completely lying in documentaries and interviews about what it was like. That's different.
Where's the artistic merit in that? There's no artistic merit in that. It's like, okay, we're allowed to make an album that would be fine if we were getting along and we were all playing on it and we thought you guys could actually play, but we're not. There's no artistic merit in that. It's completely bankrupt in artistic merit.
But what's the artistic merit that you're looking for in a Kiss song? I'm just looking for some fun in a Kiss song. I'm not looking for artistic merit.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, totally. That's absolutely fine. But when you're trying to put across...
Yeah.
But when you're breaking down the fourth wall a little bit, and saying, like, also, it's worth saying that apparently the lyrics in this song were stuff that came from interviews that what they've said about one another. So it is trying to play off this idea of, like, we put our differences aside. You all fucking hated each other. You all absolutely fucking hated each other. And it's not fair with your fans who are... It's the fact that it's purposely marketed at these people that are putting money in their pockets, though. That they are putting money in their pockets. They're not saying they've got over it. To buy this record.
They're still angry with each other and they're still rough around the edges. That's what they're saying in the lyrics. That they still, really...
But they're like, yeah, but it's like, despite everything else, we're coming back together, and it's like, you wanted the best, here it goes.
Say that.
You've
That's
got
not
it,
in
stuff
the
like
words.
that. When none of them are on the album.
That.
No, it's the chorus. It goes,
no point
you wanted the best. It's kind of,
No, you wanted the best is them saying we're trying our best to put our differences aside to present.
Oh no, it's the
fans want.
That's not what I take from it. What I take from it is that they are saying, oh yeah, so well, we've had these differences, so what? But you know what? No matter what, above all else, you wanted the best. Here we are. You've got it, and it's just all a lie. It just feels like AI. It feels like someone put in a prompt saying, "Oh yeah, just a Kiss song where all the members sing a verse or something like that." That's what it feels like. It feels cynical. It feels contrived. At best, yeah, I agree with you. It's nice hearing all the vocals ping off each other. It's just, you can't do this to the people that are essentially basically paying your wage. It's completely fucking wrong. And bankrupt. I mean, as a song, yeah, I guess it's fine. Anyway, Alex, what do you think?
No, they don't say at any point we've all made up and everything's fine. This song is addressing the problems. Is it not? Is this song not addressing the problems?
I believe it is.
I mean, I don't think so. Not really. I don't think so. I think it's it's kind of saying that we'll still leave you like kicking and screaming.
Well, the lyrics.
And yeah, they're saying we've had problems in the past, but that's the impression that I get from it. I mean, if it was a song that was like, we all still hate each other, here you go, I'd be like, great, that's a great song. At least it's honest. If the song was like overtly saying, yeah, we all hate each other, and that's fine, brilliant, yeah, write that song. That sounds great. That's brilliant. But it's not. It's not. It's still very much of the sentiment of, yeah, you wanted the best, you got the best, here we are, we're together, and that's just not true. I am not a fan of this. In fact, I was going to argue it should go in the bin, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I think it's one of the best songs on the album.
I'm agreeing with Danny on this one. Yeah,
I think it
should go nowhere near the bin.
It's shameless. It's
nowhere near the bin.
Sorry. Sorry, Alex, what do you think? What do you think, mate? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I'm on Danny's side in this, and in what you guys are arguing about, sort of, oh, is it fair to the fans or anything? For me, everything you said, Alexei, can be true, but there could be one day, one session, one week where this is how they were feeling, and this is what they wrote, and this is what they felt at the time. And yeah, maybe that didn't last, or it did and age poorly, but it still can be true, and it still can be their feelings at that moment. And for that, I believe that's how they felt, even from what we've heard from them since.
But they made a conscious effort. They made a conscious effort to say, "You don't come. We don't want you here. We don't like your songs, and we don't want you here." That's not the same thing.
Not according to
Because
them.
there was maybe there's like a good week where they did, but then they didn't turn up. That's still as bad. It's just saying, well, you just didn't turn up. You know, they should have. If that was true, they should have called it. Oh, you wanted the best, well, we cannot deliver because Ace and Peter haven't shown up. Like, it's not. It's so on the nose and shameless.
No, we
like,
know that they showed up
it's
at least a bit. Right, because they're on the album a bit, so we know they showed up a bit. Alex's point stands if they showed up at all. They could have had 1-2 good sessions. I think, Alex, you said it better than I did there. It's this idea that, yes, everything we've heard about the album is a mess, but that doesn't mean there couldn't have been a moment, 2 moments, a day that they really did make some good stuff together. They're allowed to still have good days amidst all of the shit. And then that doesn't make it disingenuous.
No, I think it. I mean, that's splitting hairs at this point. Whether they had one good day together and that constitutes this, I don't think that's really here or there. I did not like this. I did not care for this.
I think
at
it's absolutely the point. I want them at their best because that's the name of the song. So even if it exists at all, that's the bit that I want to hear.
Well, so you're arguing that if there was like a good day, then that means you can write a song about them being.
I don't think human relationships are as simple as they hate each other, so they're lying to us because they're saying that they don't hate each other on this track, even though they.
Yeah, but they're not on the album. They're not on the album.
This track. We're talking about this track.
This was written by Gene. Yeah, but it's obviously like, okay, we're doing this album, so we're gonna write this. So Gene's written this song, which is going to reinforce the facade that, yes, we're all together and we're all coming together. Here's your verses, go. They sing them very, very well. I'll give him that. They sing them very, 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 very well. I don't believe that for a second there was I don't know, I'm surprised you guys think this as well. I don't believe for a second that this wasn't done completely out of cynicism as a way to sell the album. I think it is... That was a thing of like, well, you know, despite the fact that they're not here, we don't particularly want them here, or they're not showing up, and we don't play. Regardless of that, we're gonna do this and put this out there because genuinely, what we feel like is that, you know, when we're together, we are the best, and that is exemplary of where we are right now. I just do not believe that. But maybe that's part of the problem. I mean, that's the big part of the problem with this band is it does get you in a loop in a loop like that, and I think that's not a really good place.
I believe that they're cold, but I don't think they're that cold. I think, you know, as hokey as it is, like the stuff we saw in Unplugged when you're watching there, and Paul being like, "Ooh, we're finally home and we're having just as much fun as you guys." Like, I think he believes that to a point. And yeah, when the business side comes in and when like the credits come in and who's in charge, I think that nasty side does take over of him. But I think I don't know. It's hard to talk about.
I think when they did Nothing to Lose and Rock and Roll All Night or Unplugged, when they did Rock and Roll All Night and Nothing to Lose, that was what I guess you guys are seeing in this song. That's what I saw in them. That did feel like they were coming together and there was that old chemistry and that old vibe.
But why? Because you know they hate each other.
That is a much better example.
Can't you say your point about that? You know they hate each other. It's just cynical and for money. We know that reunion was just for money.
Can we move on?
What's the difference? Oh, I don't think you can hear me.
Yeah, can you hear us, Alexei?
I thought he was just ignoring me and trying to move on.
You wanted
Wanted
the
the
best.
Ooh, oh, that bit's bad.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
That bit's really bad. In fact, that brings the song down quite a lot.
Let's just imagine just
I
go
wish
back
Alexei was here.
Stand
Yeah.
in your place.
That's not a good line, is it?
What's it?
Don't
Yeah,
tell me that's a place.
Oh, bollocks.
This is not your place.
Is that your place? Hey,
Oh, we can hear you, man. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. What did you say? I missed like all of that.
No, well, I think we heard because you started saying "let's move on" in the middle of my point, and I thought you were just like, "Fuck this, we need to move on."
No, yeah. I am that as
I was
well.
just saying.
I do.
I was asking
I do
you,
think
what's
that
the
as well.
difference? Because that's also a cynical cash grab. The reunion, the acoustic reunion. That's just as cynical as this song to me. What's the difference?
Nah. Well, I think one, they're all playing on it, which is one thing. The other thing is that there's an honesty to it. It's only a couple of songs. They're without makeup. It's more stripped back. There's just, yeah, they're doing it for a bit. You know, it's not a bigger project. It's not a bigger product. It's a moment in time. They're all there. It would have been nice. The one thing that I always
think
said
that's
was
splitting
really,
hairs.
really knowing what I know now.
But
All right,
I
so
guess not.
I think my main thing is that if it's a bunch of old dudes coming together, one-off gig, playing an old song, yeah, it's for money, whatever. That's fine. It's a one-off. It's an old song. They haven't played together in ages. They got a lot of history. That is good for the fans. That is nice for the fans. That's why it's not splitting hairs. I think the fans can look at this and go, "Oh, that's really nice." They're all sort of getting together. It's a one-off. In that moment, they probably did get along fine, from what I gathered. Like they were like a couple of problems behind the scenes, but other than that, it was okay. And I always said that with the Unplugged album, that's where it should have ended. They probably shouldn't have ever got back together. They probably should have just gone, here are the songs, we're going to do Nothing to Lose, we're going to do Rock and Roll, thank you, this is a nice moment. And that's it, and that's kind of
I
where it
want them
should
to
have
make
all
an album,
ended,
though, 'cause
instead
that's
of all
fun.
this, like,
I wanted,
this
but
just this
I agree with you
mess
that I'd want them to make an actual album.
that happens afterwards. And I think that's the difference. I think one is incredibly pleasing for the fans, and I think the other one is, frankly, being cruel and insulting to your fans. I think that these guys coming together and doing an old tune, the four of them, in that space as a one-off moment is incredibly pleasing for the fans. It's them coming together, and really it probably should have ended there. The difference is this isn't pleasing for the fans. I think this is insulting to the fans, and I think that's the difference for me personally. I think this is insulting to the fans, and it is lying to their fans. Anyway, Alex,
But don't tell a lie.
you were making a point, and then I stepped in. Please carry on.
All right. Yes, Alexei, it's aged very poorly, but on the first listen I had where I didn't know any of this, this was a high point of the album, because from the sound of it, it's a lot of fun, and hearing them all sing together in this way, which we never really got, is so great to hear, and it just makes you think, why weren't you guys doing this back in the day? Like, even on this very sort of simple kind of AC/DC sort of rhythm thing we got on, there's nothing fancy going on, but it's just fun to hear them back to back and hear their personalities come through. It really makes you think what we could have got back on all those old albums. And I thought it was a fun and sweet moment. I like how playful the lyrics are, and they referencing how they felt about each other. It's funny. Yeah, like I said, it's aged poorly, but that's how I felt listening to it. The chorus is very disappointing. It feels very slapped together.
Yeah.
And the sort of is a really poor choice.
So bad.
So bad.
Yeah, that was shocking.
But we get some fun dad rock solos once again. And then we get that weird ass ending where I'm guessing that's Gene doing the sort of British accent thing, right? That seems very much his. I suppose it's all their sense of humor.
Well, it's the bloopers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the bloopers, isn't it? Yeah.
I think we said enough about this track.
Sorry. Cool.
Yeah, okay.
Let's move on to Raise Your Glasses. I think this bangs. I mean, this absolutely bangs. Alex, what do you think?
It's sort of I wrote this the right direction. It's a very Kiss, I don't know, sort of area style attitude. It reminded me a lot of what was the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll in that. Yeah, that's what they do now, and it fits.
It's more fist bumpy than that, though, right? It's more fist bumpy than that.
It is. I do think in this song they throw so many of like these cliches together that it is a bit of a mess in a way. I think it just needed a bit of reworking or something because it's just a bit all over the place. But yeah, if I heard this at a bar or something, I wouldn't object to it. Like, it is ridiculous and it's fine. Yeah, it's okay. It's
very
just
cheesy.
Okay.
It's very cheesy, over the top.
Yeah, really, really.
Is. Danny, what do you think? What do you think, Danny, of Raise Your Glasses?
Yeah, well, it started, and I thought, well, this is all I've ever asked for. But you knew it was going to be a Paul song instantly as soon as it started. They've never used this chord structure, and it works. It's nostalgic in a different way. It's more just a sort of nostalgic-y, vibe-y song that they're doing, rather than like trying to recreate an old sound they used to do. I do think Paul is a rare person who can pull this off. and only just. I'm not even sure he does. It's almost a bit too silly, this song. I will take it over so many other sounds that they've done.
It's
in
quite
the past,
funny,
though.
this one. It's one of them.
It is quite funny.
I think it's definitely in the top 10 funny ones. It's up there. There's just something about it. Raise your glasses.
It is perfect for the reunion thing they're going for. I don't love it. Again, it's very silly. It's very silly, but it's alright.
Can I say one thing that's sort of like it's a bit weird about the song is that lyrically, it goes back and forth between like, oh, we're striving our way still, and that like we keep striving for our best, but then it's also like, oh, we've already done it. We're already at the mountaintop, sort of thing. Like, if you read some of the lyrics, it goes back and forth, and it's like really like, well, what are we? Have we reached the peak and like we're looking back at how amazing we are, or are we still like, but we gotta keep on going and don't stop now, sort of thing. So again, it's just a little bit all over the place, but yeah, like I'm agreeing with both of you.
Right. Yeah, no, I think this bangs. I like this song because it goes, standing tall cause we're the champions, raise your glasses. I think it's good. I like it. There's some more kind of self-aware stuff in there, you know, like when he says kind of like, oh, gods of thunder, and shout it out loud and stuff like that. But it didn't bother me so much. It's a bit more subtle. This next one, though, I finally found my way. This has to go in the bin, right? Surely. This has to go in the bin. There isn't a fucking chance in hell this is not going in the bin. For the love of God. Found my way. This is terrible. Who went first last time? I can't remember. Danny, talk to me.
I had the same feeling about this as I did the Ace track. I was like, come on, Peter. I was so rooting for him, and I was so ready. Especially after you wanted the best. I was like, we'd had a taste of Peter. Now I'm going to get a full...
It's not Peter's fault, track. Though. This is not Peter's fault.
Yeah, it's not his song, is it?
This song
is not his fault, Alex. It's a bit, because where's the rasp, Peter? And I know that's a simple criticism, but he's not singing it well.
His vocals are dreadful. His vocals are terrible. I think it's a real shame he has been pigeonholed because of Beth into doing songs like this, because Beth is sort of an anomaly. The other times they've made him do songs like this, you know, like the stuff on some of the stuff on his solo album, like Here Comes the Rain and stuff like that. He doesn't actually sing these well. I think Beth works because it's kind of more like you know, it's got a lot of humility. It's sort of fragile sounding. It's a little song. You know what I mean? This isn't that. This isn't that. Sorry, carry on.
Well, I didn't write much for it. I put, you know, it's over-arranged. It's really not a great song. It reminded me of his solo album. Like, you bring that up, it made me think of something that would be on his solo album. I'm really disappointed about the lack of rasp, and I didn't write bin. I know what you mean, Alexei. I know what you mean. I'm going to think about it while Alex talks. Because I really didn't write anything else for this. I have very little to say.
Alex, what do you think then, friend?
Well, I just want to, because the first thing I wrote down about this before we really kind of get into the song is this is when on his first listen to the album I wrote down, I'm having so much fun, because what the hell is going on with this album? it just goes from all over the place, all these different directions, and it was amazing on a Kiss album to like go to the next track and just be like, what the hell is this? Like, and with this one, like, you know, it starts with a ballad and you go, okay, are we gonna get that Peter song, like as Danny was saying, we're hoping for, and then we get it, and it's not just a Peter song. We get this very unusual duet between him and Paul, which I never saw
Is
coming.
it them singing? Is it them singing to each other?
Well, that's it. It's this. I thought at first.
That's what
in
it
the first
comes
verse,
across like.
I was like, oh,
We
it's
danced
like an
the
ode
night
to
away.
Kiss. Like, it's like, oh, he's coming back to the band and he's finally found his way back home. And also I was like, oh, very sweet. Yeah, okay, very sickly, but very sweet, whatever. And then Paul joins in and gives it this very homoerotic sort of feel to it.
Nothing wrong with that. That actually.
Nothing wrong with
makes
it.
Better,
just like I said,
I think that makes it
the
more interesting
thing,
song.
I have no problem with this, but just the last thing I expected. I would not expect that, you know, like Paul and Gino will be like, yeah, what we need is Peter and Paul singing to each other in this way.
It's gay shit. We need some fucking gay shit on this album. That's what they said.
Yes,
We need some
absolutely.
gay
And
shit, Paul. Can we get
for
some
that
more
reason alone, it should not
homoerotic
go in the
curriculum?
bin. That's all I'm going to say. Is it a good
That's
song?
a good point. I'll go for that.
Is
yeah.
it a good song?
No,
it's not a good
terrible,
song.
It's a terrible song. It's really bad.
But would I take this off the album? No, because like I say, like this roller coaster ride of an album was such fun for me, and
I don't know, man. It's really bad.
It is really. I mean, I'll go for funny, but like, it's really bad. It's really bad.
I'll listen to this, then the freaking
in the bin. If Gene had sung this, it would be straight in the bin.
Yeah, but these two are better singers than Gene, and this is better than freaking the Paul ballads we got off a few albums ago. You know, there's really shit ballads. Like this one's at least.
No. I this is one of his. I think Paul's vocals on this sound terrible. Which songs do you mean? Paul, what Paul ballads do you mean?
'Cause you're everything to me.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
bad, that one. We
Yeah.
didn't put that in the bin.
Oh,
though, did we?
that is bad.
Forget
I
it.
want
No,
it
we
in the
didn't.
bin, but
I think that is better than this. I think that is better than this song.
no.
I'm not sure.
Every time I look at you, I think it's better than this. Definitely.
I don't want to defend it too much because it's like it's whatever. I really want to hear whatever Peter offered originally, because I read that he offered like 4 or 5 songs, and all of them were turned down. So Paul wrote this for Peter, and then entered himself again. Just not what I expected. To Paul to write a song for Peter and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna sing along with you." Very strange. So I'm fascinated by this song, but it's not great. I don't think it should go in the bin. If this goes in the bin, then I think we should go back and put other songs in the bin.
Well, it's just not just that, Alex. It's just how
Leave it out the bin.
It's just how cheap it sounds. It sounds so cheap. It's amazing that like, it almost sounds like a keyboard demo or something like that. Particularly the drums. Like it's amazing that even though Beth came out 20 plus years before this does, it sounds so much worse than Beth does. Maybe that's because Bruce Fairbairn doesn't know as much about like recording orchestration as much as recording an orchestra as much as Bob Ezrin does. I do not know. With this though, it seems like Paul just has this kind of bee in his bonnet about proving that he could have written Beth. Do you know what I mean? Because he seems to be having a hang up.
Done it yet, has he?
No, he has not. I think he's got this hang up about the fact that Peter wrote Beth and it was a big hit for them. Do you know what I mean? Or co-wrote Beth and it was a big hit for them. Because you look at it, I mean, Hold Me, Touch Me from his solo album. Again, the same thing. Complete failure. Every Time I Look at You that we covered, complete fucking failure. These never work for him. And he sounds, like I said, awful when he comes in. He really does not sound good when he comes in. He sounds a lot worse than Peter because his voice just does not suit this style. It all sounds so cheap, particularly in comparison to Beth. I have no idea what the chorus is. Could you sing me what the chorus is meant to be?
It's like, 'cause you're everything.
Oh yeah, that was it. I remember now. It's just rubbish. It's a waste of Peter. That's the main thing. It's a waste of Peter. Like you spaffed him all over that fucking cynical novelty track, and now he's just been completely wasted here. And like I was saying, it's bad that he's been pigeonholed into doing these kind of big orchestral ballads because it worked one time. It's not worked all the other times. He's best when he's doing Black Diamond. He's best when he's doing Mainline. Even something like Hooligan or Baby Driver, he works better when he's singing those, those songs. He sounds better on You Wanted the Best, definitely. He does sound good on that track. He sounds rubbish here. I mean, I think it should go in the bin, but I've been outvoted. I've been outvoted. It's the ridiculousness of it and how cheap and I can't describe it any better than just how bad it sounds. Do you know what I mean? And I know that's bad. That's bad criticism. Do you know what I mean? But it just seems obvious to me just how bad it is that it should go in the bin.
It is bad.
But yeah, it's really bad. But if I've been outvoted, I've been outvoted. Dreaming. I think this is pretty sick. I was quite surprised. It's how, we were talking on the phone about how, sometimes you get the odd deep cut and you go, oh, wasn't expecting that. It's pretty good. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, this one grew on me quite a bit. On first listen, it was, I think maybe coming off like the previous few tracks, it was a bit just like, oh, okay, like very different feel. Where are we going here? I wasn't sure what to kind of focus on in a weird way because there's quite a lot going on sonically in this. But it grew me quite a bit and sort of taken from the past few albums, a bit of a darker sound, a bit of a grungier sound. But I think Paul sounds really good here. He sounds really good and maybe, other than the first track, probably the best he sounds on the album. The drums sound very good and there's like a huge solo going on here, like doubling guitars sort of thing. Feels massive. And I think the lyrics kind of work here as well. It's that very sort of like 90s masculine philosophy crap. Like trying to sound like very like, I don't know, sort of like, whoa, like what's really going on, even though it's like kind of rubbish. But I think for this song it works. This was a nice surprise on this album, considering like, I don't know, I thought they kind of like left the sound behind a bit, other than Gene's crappy Within one. Yeah, Danny?
Well, you guys haven't brought it up, but I knew going in to this album that Alice Cooper sued them.
Alice Cooper, 18.
Oh, that's this track.
He got settled out of court.
He got settled out of court.
I gotta be honest. And look, I have my views about all that stuff, and it's generally, I think it's bullshit how much time, money, and resources are spent by people who don't really understand how music works, talking about like quote copying others. I think it's not good, and I think songs are similar, and that's fine. Having said that, the fact that it's Alice Cooper and who they are as Kiss, and the whole image thing that has existed from day one with Kiss kind of looking like they're copying Alice Cooper, or Arthur Brown, I suppose. it does look a bit embarrassing, and it did make this song hard to listen to. I wish I hadn't known going in because it's a pretty fucking similar riff, and that is what I was hearing because I already knew that. I might not have heard it had I not known that. And again, I think people are too harsh about all of that sort of stuff, but it was there, and it made it hard for me to really be objective with this song because it's not that bad. I thought his vocals work, and it is a good chord structure. It's a good one to name if they did. So the only real thing I wrote outside of that was that it's a sick ass guitar solo. The tone is really big and massive. Whoever played it, does a really good job. It's one of the best on the album.
It's Bruce.
How is it
Bruce?
Bruce?
Guitar
Goes to
solo
show.
is amazing.
Goes to show. Yeah.
You could tell. It felt to me that he also. I think he wrote a lot of this as well, because he's got a co-write on it. I think actually a lot, from what I read, a lot of this was him.
Well, no, Alexei, Alice Cooper wrote it, or whoever wrote it. No, I'm joking. But,
sorry, Bruce robbed Alice Cooper.
In fact, they settled out of court in Alice Cooper's favour, so he might have made a buck off this song. I don't know. It is quite similar. It is quite similar.
Yeah, this is all right. I agree. It's passionate. It's urgent. Again, Bruce just fucking unleashes a really, like Danny was saying, a really, really sick solo. It was kind of like he was so, fire me, will you? And then was like, it was really, really good. Really, really good. Yeah, again, like I was saying, it's funny that when, doing this, there's the odd sort of deep cut that sort of leaps out at you. And I think this is sort of one of them. In general, actually, with this song, I think this is probably Paul's one of his best albums. I think it is actually his best album since Crazy Nights. I think that he's a lot stronger and he's doing what he does really, really well for the most part on this album. Yeah, I dug it. The last track, Journey of 1,000 Years. I really don't have anything to say on this one. I think more than any other Kiss song, I just zoned out. Just every time I listen to it, I was completely zoned out. I really don't have anything to say on it. I kind of have nothing. I just wrote "Stop Giving Gene Closes," and again, this is it, isn't it? This is it. It's another kind of rubbishy Gene closer. I mean, is it bad? I don't really know. I mean, I zoned out a lot, so I guess it must be. Couldn't tell you anything about it at all. Anyway, Danny, what do you think of it? If you have anything to say about it.
Well, I listened to this album twice. And the first time I wrote was just sitting here for ages until I realised I hadn't written anything down. So I wrote that down. And then the second listen, it happened again. It just happened again. I've maybe the most ever. I've got nothing to say. Alex?
Wow, okay. I had the same feeling in that, listen to it. It's so aimless. There's something about the chord structure or something going on, but like you don't know what to focus on. It's constantly building, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's always staying in this place. And I think I don't know what the sort of objective of the song is, but it seems incredibly difficult to write because it just seems as though have this one cycle and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it leads to all this like massive strings as to be this big ending. But it seems an impossible task for them, because if you really want to do it, you have to get really creative with how you're building, because as all of us are saying, you just get lost of it and you lose attention because you're not picking up on that climax or whatever. So those strings feel undeserved. And the mixing just annoying anyway. Like the acoustic guitar is like way too loud, and all the guitaring is really messy. The one thing that I saw, I didn't pick it up, I just saw it online, but apparently the string part at the end is mimicking the guitar work from the first song. It's meant to be like a climax to the Psycho Circus thing, but there's no way you would get that listening to it, unless you really, really pay attention to that guitar line, because it doesn't thematically seem to tie in with anything.
Oh, really?
And
there is this. I mean, if that's true, then they are sort of trying to really half-arsedly, like really. I mean, it's barely even an attempt, really. Of sort of saying that there's a kind of a concept behind this.
Yeah,
do you know
well,
what I mean? You got the fucking sound effects at the beginning, and then you've got this that sort of loops around and stuff like that. I mean, if it is, it's a
yeah,
really
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a very loose thing. I
attempt,
don't
or
know
it's
how
nearly-
much they put into it, but I saw people talk about that, and then when I listened to it again, I heard it. But yes, that is a link, but it doesn't give you anything. It doesn't make you go, oh, we're at the end of the journey of our Psycho Circus, whatever. And that's all I gotta say. Gene did more of the contradictory lyrics sort of thing, which again I was saying at the beginning of the album, the sort of like, did you sleep without dreams? Did you fly without wings? Did you touch without feel? Yeah, it's really annoying, Gene. Stop. That's all I gotta say. It's a bad ending to the album, actually.
Yeah.
Ending.
Bad ending. Yeah, I'll tell you what. That's something I just noticed right now. No sexist Gene on this album, I don't think. But there wasn't on the last album, I don't think. There wasn't on Carnival of Souls.
He's really mature.
And there wasn't. He's maturing up. Well, actually, on Revenge, though, he wrote Domino. And that's like the worst of the worst. so,
We could argue at some point which the worst is.
well, yeah, I mean, do you want pretentious Gene or sexist Gene? It really depends. My least favourite's sentimental Gene. As long as it's not sentimental Gene, I'm cool. Sentimental
is that?
sensitive Gene is by far the worst. That is just the fucking worst. That is just absolutely the fucking worst. Album overall. Our closing thoughts on this album. What a journey it has been into quite a short record. I think that Gene sort of discovered chord progressions that were popular of the day and just kind of went with that. And for the most part, did make some real low moments like We Are One. And You Wanted the Best, although You Wanted the Best musically isn't terrible. But other than that, you just kind of have him as sort of this, trying to be a little bit more philosophical and stuff like that, which I guess is, as we were just saying, maybe is a bit better than him being sexist. Ace delivered an Ace song, and that's not a criticism. That's quite welcome. It was quite nice to hear that. Absolutely, it was one of my favorites on the record, and it was really nice to hear them all, together on that. It was that was actually really nice because that was genuine. And again, Paul, I think, for bar the ballad he wrote for Peter, which was one of the worst things on the album, did quite a great job, actually, in my opinion, because I liked Raise Your Glasses, and I liked Dreaming, and I liked Psycho Circus. I Pledge Allegiance to Rock and Roll, I can take or leave. And I thought his vocals on You Wanted the Best were pretty good. The main issue with this record, in my view, and it goes back to what we were debating, there are numerous moments when they are obviously trying to tap into the nostalgia market and milk the fact that they've reunited. Psycho Circus, the title track, is more subtle in that regard, so it sort of gets a pass, and it's a good track, and it's just musically it's a good track. We Are One and You Wanted the Best really are shameless in my opinion, and in that way Gene is definitely the worst culprit, but he would be, because that's what he does. But even Paul, there's moments in Raise Your Glasses, but again, it's not. The song sort of can supersede that. It's not super obvious. The Beth ripoff is just obviously quite a cynical attempt, and I think doesn't really come from a very healthy place. I mean, other than that, it's tolerable. This record, it's the fact that we know what was happening behind the scenes, and it just becomes so insulting to your fan base. We Are One being the worst culprit, definitely. Had there not been this shadow cast over the album, I would probably have placed it relatively high, probably somewhere around like Destroyer or Paul's solo album, maybe even higher. but those tracks do let it down, and quite significantly as a product, in my view, and particularly in hindsight with history, it's only gotten worse and worse. So in that respect, I would probably put it just above Rock and Roll Over, to be perfectly honest with you, because that's like the start. Because that's like the start of when the albums become really, really shitty, and it sounds better than all those albums. Like, it sounds better than all those albums. However, musically, it is higher, so it really depends. Really, I'm easy either way. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm easy to put it just above Rock and Roll Over. I'm also easy to put it relatively high, because which way you look at it, really. It really depends on, well, they're not necessarily synonymous, looking at it through like, well, I'm going to enjoy this on a purely musical level, or I'm going to enjoy this, as a fan of music history, and they're different things. They're different, they're different takes that you have on it. So I'm easy completely either way. Maybe there's a place in the middle where you take both those things to account, and it will sort of go, I don't know, towards the lick it up sort of phase. I do not know. Danny, what are your feelings overall of Psycho Circus by Kiss?
Well, earlier Alex said something similar to this, and the first thing I wrote for the conclusion is, I just had more fun with this album than I have had for a while. I think all of the 90s. Yeah. Well, since Crazy Nights, actually, I've not really liked any of the albums since Crazy Nights. I think that we've been on a real low. I think we put Revenge way too high. I've not been feeling this run. And this is better. This is it's just a more fun album and enjoyable to listen to. It was interesting. I wrote this down. I saw on Rate Your Music, I was looking up this album to see what people thought. And one person in particular brought up Paul's jealousy issues working against him. And I think this is, you can actually apply this to the whole band's catalogue. And it got me thinking, well, like, Paul is obviously, in so many ways, the best thing about the band. So I have to say that first. Yeah. But I wonder whether he could also be part of the reason they're not a brilliant band sometimes. Because I think he is very controlling. I think he is jealous and he's bitter. And I'm saying this based on stuff that he's put in his book. This is, this is not, because it doesn't always show in the music. But just on the way he talks about things and other people is very hard to believe, and he doesn't come across well. Because I was thinking, and I know you won't agree with this, Alexei, but I wrote, hell, even Gene wrote the one type of song that this album should have been full of, in my opinion, which is You Wanted the Best. And actually, no, you would agree, Alexei, that in a perfect world where they were all getting on well, you'd welcome that song then, wouldn't you, right? Maybe not. You might not love
probably.
It, yeah, okay.
Yeah, probably,
so he was at least on it for embracing the idea of the reunion, more so, I think, than Paul was. In my head, and from what you've told us, Alexei, of course, I think Gene's also a big part of the problem. And so maybe I've got it all wrong, but when the man has shown himself to be one of the most bitter in rock, I have to wonder whether he wants it to be clear that he's the best member of this band. Because in many ways he is.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's going to win that. He's going to win that.
I mean, that's a huge that is a huge problem in itself, where you're right about it working against him, because it's like, Paul, we know you're the best member of the band. Like, we get that. We get that we know this. You don't need to do this. And it doesn't work in his favor. It makes you less likely to compliment him.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm focusing on Paul is also to do with that as well. It's like I'm holding him to a higher standard, because Gene is such a write-off in his personality, in his music and everything. But it's like, okay, Gene. But Paul has really brought us some really good shit. And so it is sad to see the way he talks and the way he seems to be about the other members. It's just how quick him and Gene are to use other musicians. Okay, let's say Ace and Peter weren't showing up and that version of the story is right. Then you pause recording, don't you? Maybe I'm just so naive and I don't understand the business. But I just think we're delivering an album that the fans are expecting, to include every member of the band, of the original lineup. So you wouldn't... It's just... I just get the feeling they were kind of... You know, they'd give them one call and they didn't pick up, and so it's like, oh, we'll have to use Bruce. We'll have to use Bruce on this track. Do you know what I mean? That's how it comes across to me, this album.
Well, you know
I'm
what I
sure
wondered?
Peter and Ace were a bit flaky, or whatever you want to call it. But it just sounds like they were very almost willing to accept that. But like, okay, quick, while they're not here, let's get other people on it. Because I think they don't want them to be on it. So they leaned into the fact that they weren't whatever returning calls or whatever it was. None of it sounds normal. The fact that other bands don't talk in this way says something. Other bands don't have this problem. Where it's like, oh, we called them, but they weren't showing up. That's very odd.
Yeah, it is odd. Yeah, I think that I think that what I think. Sorry to go back on it. Is that having them on the album would have meant they would have to renegotiate the contract in some way, because maybe the contract didn't say.
That's it too.
Like,
Yeah.
I think they would have to renegotiate the contract to either give them more money, and they didn't want that, or they would get a piece of the record, or would have to have a certain amount of artistic control, and they just couldn't be bothered.
And
so
I'm
they
probably
would just,
looking into it too much.
Yeah, I also did read somewhere that they were paid. This is on Wikipedia, so I don't know how much I put into it. But I also read somewhere that Ace and Peter were both paid $800,000 to not appear on it, specifically to not appear. But I don't know how much credence I give that.
Okay.
Well, who knows? But you're right. I think in terms of they don't... Right, if those two, Ace and Peter, are really involved in this album, then the argument of, no, we're equal members of this band is suddenly a much stronger one. So I think...
Yeah.
Again, like I said, they lent into them. Because I think that Ace and Peter were probably very self-conscious about rejoining. And so they probably weren't very assertive. We weren't there. I wish I was a fly on the wall, Alexei. I wish, like you, that there was a documentary, true documentary.
It would have been the best documentary.
About all of this.
Yeah. A proper one. The thing is, though, the footage is probably still out there. They should just re-edit it, to be truthful.
It feels like, as always, all of the stories are changing. There's bitching, and it's because of that. Sorry, they're doing that because it wasn't loved, right? All of this talk, it's because this album wasn't that loved, presumably. I know you said it did all right, Alexei, but it didn't do probably the numbers they wanted. Definitely not the critical reception they wanted. I really think they've done much worse, and while this album comes across a bit, or more than a bit, of a soulless cash grab, it still honestly trumps a lot of their supposed golden years in my books, and definitely most albums they've done leading up to it. So I've just looked at the list, Alexei, and it is a hard one. It's a really hard one to rank. I think maybe it's hard for me because I think Revenge is way too high. So I think maybe around between Asylum and Dynasty, but that's just what it...
You're putting
reaction.
it quite...
Alex, what do you think?
Okay.
It's got some jams on it. Or, no, it's a big range. Because of Revenge, it could also be below Dress to Kill. I don't know. Alex, what do you think?
I'm glad that we are talking about how difficult it is to, rank this album. Because, well, for me, if I went off the first listen or second listen, say before I knew all the history and what actually went on around it, I would easily put this in the top 5. This one, because it doesn't have classic songs, but Psycho Circus is great within a good Gene song, like Potatoes Wheel, Pledge Your Allegiance, not amazing but fun. Into the Void, great.
Yeah, just fine.
We Are One,
good. Yeah, great. Terrible.
Terrible, but interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm always weird. I'm glad that it's not. I'll take different and weird over boring. And so for me, it is bad, but it's not like a major negative like we had on once. You want the best. For me, great. On that, those listened, it was great.
Yeah.
Raise Your Glasses, fun. I finally found my way. Again, interesting, but not a good song. Dreaming, good. Journey of a Thousand Years, bad. And most of the tracks there I enjoyed listening to, and it was fun going through and like having this weird for us to say nostalgia, but we are starting to get nostalgia for the old Kiss stuff now, because we've been doing this for freaking way too long, this goddamn podcast.
Yeah.
And so when I hear the Ace track, I go, oh yeah, just like his old ones. In fact, I know you guys didn't listen to it, but I really wish they put on the other Ace track as well, the bonus one, because that is just as good as Into the Void, and could have easily been put onto the main album, and would have been a benefit. So going off those just pure listen for the history, I would have easily put this, Destroyer and up. However, we do with this stuff take into account some context and how the feeling we get from it. And so if you guys want to put a bit further down, Danny, you mentioned above like Revenge, maybe Asylum Dynasty. I'm happy to compromise there.
Asylum Dynasty?
Yeah, I mean, I said that, like, you know, it's either, you know, two ends of the spectrum where you judge it purely on the music, and then I agree with Alex, it would be probably, you're right, in the top 5, 6 sort of thing, between, like, Destroyer and Paul. Or, you know, purely on the history, then it just goes just above Rock and Roll Over. But you're right. You know, if you just take both those things into account, you even it out, I would say that Dynasty and what were you saying, Dynasty and Asylum, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Between those two,
Yeah.
Between Dynasty and Asylum, that feels right, because you know, if you know, things can get tainted by like history and stuff like that. You know, you got to take those things into account. You know, like you can be like, oh yeah, this sounds good, or this sounds fine, but then, you know, you on another day you might be like, oh, this is just soulless and a waste of people's time. So yeah, let's put it there between Dynasty and Asylum.
Okay, let's go.
In it goes. Let's just check the bin. Is it in the bin? We Are One is definitely in the bin. Thank God for that.
Good.
Guys, next time.
Oh yes.
What were you gonna say?
I want to say one more thing. It's important. In 1999, Bob Ezrin co-founded Enigma Digital, an internet radio provider. So that's what he was up to.
Oh, cool. Anything else? Is it successful? Is it still going?
That was eventually sold to Clear Channel. Then it changed the subject.
And the rest was history.
No, it was good. First for knowledge. I mean, like, cool. What? Let's go on it. Would have been a very different album, this, had he done it.
If Bob was there.
Just thinking about it. Yeah, maybe you would have more Peter. Yeah. Maybe he'd sort of insist.
Oh, mate. We Are One would have gone crazy with Bob Ezrin on it.
There we go. What about choirs and bells and shit like that, when he just goes all goes all pet sounds on it, which he likes to do. Awesome. Let's next time we're going to be covering the penultimate Kiss record,
Sonic Boom,
which should be, you know, which is an album I know very little about. I know 2 songs off it.
Can't wait.
But I did see them on that tour. Me and Danny both saw them on that tour, so that would be nice to. I can regale you with the anecdote of that. So. What we gonna sing? Here's a good anecdote. What are we should try to get that guy who tried to mug me. Basically, we went to go see Kiss, and then someone tried to mug me on the way there. We should try to get him on as a guest.
See how he's doing.
See how he's doing. Get him on as a guest. Get him to listen to the album and get his thoughts on it.
Let's sing.
Right. Let's sing. I guess it's got to be
Raise Your Glasses,
track, right? Or Raise Your Glasses. Yeah.
Okay.
You ready?
Raise Your Glasses.
3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Around the nation, raise your glasses, raise your glasses, standing proud, we're the champions. Raise your glasses, raise your glasses.
The miserable, marginalized existence